your MC for the day, and welcome to Golden Panda Industry Forum. The theme for today's conference is co-production, distribution, and incubation. And I know that together we can achieve Golden Panda's goal to foster collaborations in global film industries and to also facilitate the exchange of ideas among emerging filmmakers. So I'm going to keep my remarks short so we can hear more from our presenters, and we've got a lot to cover today. But before we start, I just want to recognize our speakers and our special guests. Sort of Jiang Ping, the Vice Chairman and General Manager of China Film Co., Robert Wong, the Vice President of Creative BC, John DePong, the National Project Lead of the Western Region in Ontario for Telefilm, Bo Svensson, an American writer, director, actor, and producer, Stephen Nemeth, the producer and President of Rhino Films, Dennis Hoffman, President of Stargate Studios Vancouver, Robert Lundberg, the COO of China Lion Film Distribution, Kosuke Mukai, a Japanese screenwriter, Lee Haihua, producer at the Alibaba Pictures Group, William Fang, the head of Greater China and Vice President of Asia Pacific for the Motion Picture Association, Oleg Uryemstev, a Russian director and producer, Miro Obala, entertainment and media lawyer for the Taylor Obala Murray Leland LLP, and Jan Walls, a Golden Panda International Film Festival committee member. So on behalf of the Golden Panda International Film Festival, I want to thank you all for being here with us, and thank you to everyone for being here. So today's full agenda is in the program, which you should have a copy of. Everybody's got a copy? Great. And one more note, if you have tickets to the ceremony tomorrow or the industry party tonight, please pick up those tickets at the front check-in booth. Those are waiting for you there. So it means a lot to the entire team that you're all here. Thank you again for joining us. It's going to be a great day, so let's get started. And I'll hand it over to Jan Walls for a few words. And Professor Walls is a member of the Golden Panda International Film Festival Committee. He was the founder of and first director of both the David Lamb Center for International Communication and the Asia-Canada program at Simon Fraser University. So Jan Walls, would you please do us the honor of starting us off?
Thank you, Max. He knows that I'm a retired professor, so he emphasized Jan's going to welcome us with a few words. It won't take 15 minutes. We're behind schedule already, so I'm going to keep my remarks down to, I would say, 5 minutes. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the organizing committee, of which I'm a member, I'd like to express our warm welcome to the 5th Golden Panda International Film Festival Industry Forum. As a non-specialist in the film industry, but somewhat of a specialist in East-West intercultural communication, I can only think of 3 reasons, big ones, why North America and China should be aggressively pursuing more collaborative relationships in the motion picture industry. 3 reasons, and they are, number 1, people who have grown up in cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Los Angeles, New York, Vancouver, or Toronto have much more in common with each other on any given workday than they have with the people who live in the rural regions of their own country. From the ways that we wake up in the morning, check our smartphone, shower, get dressed, eat breakfast, get to work, and relate to colleagues at work, to the ways that we communicate with each other and seek entertainment after work and on weekends. There are far fewer barriers to communication and cooperation in addressing market opportunities than there ever used to be. We even have more people than ever before in history learning each other's languages today. That's the first reason we should be pursuing more mutually beneficial cooperation. The second reason, the first law of ecology states that it's impossible to do just one thing alone, because everything is connected with everything else on the planet, whether we recognize it or not, and whether we approve of it or not. This is simply the case, as dictated by Mother Nature and her laws of physics. So we might as well take advantage of these connections in the film industry for each other's mutual benefit. The Chinese have known this for a couple of thousand years. Their traditional proverb says, plucking one hair impacts on the whole body. 拔一毛而动全身. That's the second reason. The third reason and final reason, we live in market-oriented economies, and there are huge and growing markets in China for North American films, and the most successful ones will be those whose Western producers have had good advice during the early stages of production on how to make a film appeal not only to traditional Western audiences, but to Chinese audiences as well. And the best advice comes through collaboration in the whole production process. Chinese investors have, for the past few years, been actively seeking Western film projects to invest their resources in. And we would be simply foolish to ignore such opportunities to gain support from overseas investors. Similarly, Chinese film producers who look forward to growth in North American viewing audiences for their releases would benefit from having North American advisors on board from early stages, not just for translation purposes, but for cross-cultural understanding as well. That's my third and final point this morning. This is all I know about Sino-North American film industry opportunities for mutual beneficial cooperation. I wish everyone participating in today's forum success in your presentations, and I hope that at the end of the day, we will all go home with greatly enriched and enriching knowledge of each other's interest and opportunities for collaboration. Thank you very much, and turn your cell phones on silence. You forgot to mention that.
Thanks, Professor Wallace. I forgot to mention a few other things as well. I missed a whole page of special guests, so thank you to Lisa Pear, Tim Stevenson, Juwen Bai, Anil Bora Inan, Maria Semena Espita Meza, Unam Kim, Paul Armstrong, Nadia De Mofte, Dan Thompson, Peter Chan, and Jamie Luck. So we'll start off our presentations with Robert Wong. Robert Wong is the Vice President of Creative BC, and he's here today to talk to us about the advantages British Columbia offers in the filmmaking process.
So sorry, people.
Thank you, Max. And thank you, Matthew and the Golden Pandas, for inviting me to be here today. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to represent BC's motion picture industry at this significant point in history for storytellers around the world, particularly for British Columbia. The demand for entertainment content has never been higher, and our stories are being told across all traditional and many new emerging platforms, from TV to YouTube to theaters to virtual reality goggles. Together in BC, we have worked very hard in the industry for over 40 years to achieve the level of global recognition and success that we now enjoy in this province. In 1978, British Columbia had 4 productions, and that number has grown in 2016 to 280 productions, with a $2.6 billion impact on the economy. This year isn't over yet, but we can estimate that we will be well over 300 productions this year, and that achievement represents a combination of attributes that can't be found anywhere else, in our humble opinion. As a premier center for screen production, our proximity to Los Angeles, the world's North Star of storytelling, is key to our success today, and we continue to expand our global relations with China, India, Ireland, the UK, Germany, and many others. Hollywood will continue to be a key partner going forward. The possibilities are exciting. The positive relationships we have built with leaders in Hollywood and the trust they place in us with their projects has been built carefully by the many members of our industry associations, unions, and guilds, whose standards are high and whose members can be depended upon to uphold this level of excellence. We're also known as a highly collaborative industry, one that places our clients first, and we all unite and work together to deliver excellent service. Our government's investment in attractive incentives and labor-based tax credits is an example of this collaboration, attracting inward investment and creating over 44,000 jobs in British Columbia with excellent pay and exciting work. The natural beauty of the West Coast offers diverse and spectacular locations, both beaches and rainforests, and the interior offers deserts and mountains, snow and sunshine. We're fortunate in this province to have it all from a location perspective. And our cities are highly desirable, as they can easily double as New York or Shanghai anytime. A fun fact is that the City of Vancouver has collaborated with us by leaving its redundant telephone poles standing. While new technology has replaced them, the city knows our film industry uses them when we double, as many American cities of the present and the past. Our Motion Picture Production Industry Association members own industry supply companies and operate expansive studio infrastructure and equipment supplies to match. It means domestic and international productions enjoy resources including 2.5 million square feet of studio space with 100 stages plus offices. Perhaps most importantly is the depth of talent in terms of cast and crew, a dependable and collaborative labor force. Another interesting fact is that together in the Lower Mainland is that we certainly have capacity to serve over 50 productions at once. And I heard rumors last summer of 57 productions running simultaneously in BC. Over 40 years, BC has developed a highly connected and expert community of resident producers and production companies with solid global connections. Trust, history, and relationships are the foundations of doing successful business in the motion picture industry. As well, our world-leading post, visual effects, and animation capabilities, delivering services and developing domestic content are outstanding. With over 80 studios, we host the world's largest cluster of visual effects and animation companies in the world. Finally, the outstanding combination of attributes that BC possesses includes, perhaps most importantly, this differentiator, and that is our acute attention to industry sustainability and to the environment. Our responsibility to the next generation around the world as an industry is taken seriously, and with the Real Green Initiative, supported by 10 leading partners in the industry, British Columbia is determined to remain not only a place with beautiful locations, but as an attractive location for star talent to take up residence during productions. We're excited that the Golden Panda International Film Festival has chosen British Columbia as a place to showcase emerging talent, to do business, to imagine what we can create together, and to keep telling stories. Stories are one of the most fundamental ways in which we as people connect with each other, come to understand each other, and to explore the frontiers of what it means to be together in the human experience. Let's keep telling stories together and to one another, across all mediums and across the world. Together, we're shaping the future of entertainment and creativity. Thank you. 谢谢，多谢。
Thank you, Robert. Our next presenter is Li Haihua. She's a producer with the Alibaba Pictures Group, and today is speaking about the incubation process for emerging filmmakers in China.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Cookie Lee. I'm come from China, from Alibaba Pictures. Today, I'm happy to be here to share with you how I feel about making movies. Talk about the film journey of the new director. I'm so sorry because my English is not good, so I can only use Chinese to tell you. Thanks. 今天我想跟大家来分享的是中国新锐导演的电影之路。因为自己在这个领域从事的时间比较长，也是非常关注青年导演的成长，所以呢，今天跟大家分享也非常的开心。那在我们开始正式这个话题之前，我们看一看，想跟大家分享一下中国电影的一个现状。大家知道这3年的时间，3到5年吧，中国电影是一个飞速发展的一个时期。然后我们也有几个数字给大家展示一下。截止到目前，中国的电影公司已经有1.2万家。然后呢，在16年统计产出的电影作品故事片772部。然后从院线的扩张，就是现在的银幕数已经到了将近5万块，4万9千多块。然后在那个影院已经有8000多块，观影人次也15亿。这些数字告诉我们，整个的电影产业在中国这么飞速的发展。通过那张图表就能看出来，我们的票房也在飞速的发展。从14年我们票房只有294亿，现在15年就飞跃到439亿，16年的时候到455亿。那截止到10月底，也就是17年10月底的现在，票房就已经达到了476亿。我们非常有信心，可能到年底的时候可以突破500亿。这个数字是非常的庞大，然后我们的银幕数呢，也好像是根据现在的票房往上增长，但是有一个很奇怪的现象，就大家能看到那条曲线是往下走的，是我们的上座率，也就是我们这些观众走到电影院里去的次数反而是下降了。我们也在分析一个原因是什么呢？然后我们对比了一下，在美国。观众占城市人口是76%，而在中国呢，观影人口占城市人口只有30%。因为这个现象，我还跟一些同行的同事们就交流过，我说是什么原因还没有 get 到那些41%的城市人口去看电影，然后还有这么多人可以挖掘，让他们吸引他们去看电影。周围有很多不从事电影的一些朋友。我就问他们原因，他们说因为中国的电影不是那么好看，就是说，中国的那个很多影片在他们心目中还没有达到他们觉得很好的要求，所以他们很多人会愿意去选择进口片啊，或者是偶尔的会去看一次电影，所以中国的电影的发展空间还是很大的。所以我在这边想呢，也跟一些朋友分享完之后，我觉得中国电影现在还有几个需要突破的地方，就是创新。创新是这个任务，我觉得是非常需要交给青年导演来完成。然后我们也大概的去分析了一下，创新需要通过内容的创新。在2012年泰囧的出现，我们就发现了一个新型的类型，也让我们开阔了。我们的电影还可以有很多元化的形式，然后方式的创新，比如说今年最火的一部电影，估计在座的可能也听说过，是中国的《战狼2》，票房达到了56.8亿。然后它看似是一个军旅题材的电影，它其实背后也有漫威电影的感觉。另外一种是形态的创新，因为现在电影面临的最大的竞争就是互联网，互联网的话呢，给我们就有很多的压迫感。那我们也会看到电视剧的制作越来越像电影，因为它越来越精良。那我们的电影能不能像电视剧呢？中国有很多影片也希望找到电视剧的那种连续感，比如说我们《速度与激情》的系列、《生化危机》系列、《暮光之城》系列，这可能是将来中国电影想要去探索和追求的一种形式，找到它的延续性。 还有一个比较好的消息分享给大家，我们优酷出品的网剧《白夜追凶》，现在呢在中国的播放量超过了40亿，然后所以它现在也被我们的全球流媒体 Netflix 已经宣布买下了这个《白夜追凶》的版权，然后可能不久的将来，所有的大家都可以看到我们这部中国的网剧，这也是 Netflix 首次购买中国网权的一个例子，说明我们中国的网剧也开始走向国际了。说到电影的未来，我觉得可以用这个19大习主席的一句话，他是觉得在实现中国梦的时候，希望青年人放飞自己的梦想，也是鼓励青年人更大胆的去想象。然后今年我们在11月26号的时候，广电总局的张宏森局长也说了，也给大家青年电人很多的寄望。同时他也做了一个估算，他说到2020年，其实也就2-3年的时间，中国的银幕数量可能会超过6万块，因为其实现在已经达到了4万多块。然后年产影片800部，票房会达到700亿。我们看似这个数字的背后，觉得一直在飞速的成长啊，因为今年就会突破500亿。但是，我们也是想的是怎么让中国的电影走到国外，走出国门，所以也很希望，也很期待中国的电影市场能够国际，然后也影响中国的文化，所以引到我们现在中国正在做的一些青年导演扶持的平台。我举几个例子，现在有一些比较有影响力的是导演协会主办的青松计划，还有宁浩的坏猴子计划，王思聪的香蕉新导演绝地计划，刘德华的亚洲新引力计划，还有我们阿里影业的 A 计划。然后为什么会有这么多青年导演扶持计划？我觉得也是因为这个市场的需要，然后有很多的人对青年导演还有对我们电影的发展寄予了厚望，青年导演们需要有一种创新的姿态，来介入到这个领域里。好，那为什么阿里影业、阿里巴巴要做这个事情？我们大概了解一下，因为我觉得阿里它是很重视青年人才的。好，这张图呢就能知道整个阿里系都有什么，因为我觉得从第一张图开始，然后到我们每一个环节，我们从出门，所有人第一个事情就是我要开车，然后需要用导航，就是我们的高德地图。那可能你坐地铁、坐公交车就会用到阿里文学，我听听音乐、虾米音乐，然后或者是我看看新闻、上微博。到了你的办公室以后，就会工作就会用到支付宝啊、天猫啊、淘宝啊、飞猪啊去预定，还有我们的 UC。然后一到休闲的时候，就说我要订个外卖，用盒马用天猫、支付宝，还有看看现在有什么好电影，就用我们的淘票票。然后真的是走到了电影院之后，我们就用淘票购票，然后还有大麦。然后最后我们回到家里也会离不开用我们的优酷的一个视频平台，还有淘宝、天猫，就好像在整个阿里体系渗入到我们生活的每一个环节。所以我觉得阿里很有希望的是，它可以捕捉到我们就整个所有的人群，然后很迅速的提炼出所有用户的数据。这个数据库是非常强大的。看看我们整个的阿里的数据链，它一个是有阿里生态的一个数据链，还有海量的用户、海量的商家，有支付宝、阿里云的一个储存体系，还有弊端工具、淘票票专业的一个售票平台。所以我觉得，为什么我们希望阿里去做好电影的这个一个服务平台的一个事情，是因为它有这么好的一个产业链，然后可以服务到一个电影行业中来。然后我们也是带着一颗赤诚的心，希望给电影行业做一些贡献。那所以呢，扶持计划也是在阿里的一个很重要的一部分。OK， 现在我们来了解一下， 什么是阿里里面的 A 计划 ？A 计划是也希望是扩展全球的人才培养，扩展全球的市场，培养影视人才。然后我们就是为什么要去做这个事呢？因为我们是想挖掘优秀的人才，然后从投资、制作、推广、发行。青年导演的前3部作品，就是你的第1部到第3部，都是我们的扶持计划的一部分。所以我们每年都需要产出10部公益片、公益短片，然后有5到10部的电影长片，希望给到更多年轻人的机会。然后我们有一个大概的一个流程是呢，如这个图表一样，所有的能找到我们 A 计划的都是他已经有完成的剧本，所以呢，青年导演带着他的影片来找到我们来进行选拔。如果通过之后呢，我们进行投资，然后到筹备拍摄的过程中，最后其实在宣发的过程是我们的优势，因为我们现在联动了淘票票，还有艺联就是艺术放映联盟，所以很多青年导演的第1部片子，他希望走到海外的电影节参加影展，去拿一些奖项。然后我们艺术放映联盟就是有专门放映这种艺术片的一个平台，然后最后到我们的优酷做线下的播放。推广呢也是一样的，这种海外的电影节、中国的电影节，让大家更多去参与，让更多人知道你的作品，最后就是回归到我们的上院线。这是我们整个的一个 A 计划的一个流程。好，现在就开始聊点实际的，因为在我这几年工作的过程中，就可以发现，青年导演其实他会比较困惑的几个问题，比如说他的剧本80%-90%都通过自己去创作的，他没有资金去找到编剧。好，他自己去创作一个剧本，那怎样可以产出一个好的剧本？所有的好的影片源于一个好剧本。通常我就会问3个问题。你的这个题材你是怎么选择的？题材是什么？也就是这个影片的类型你怎么定位的？然后你这个电影要传达什么？就是你的核心价值。最后你是怎么去讲故事的？所以其实在剧本有2个核心的要素，一个是人物，一个是故事。所以我们也是鼓励青年导演去创新。我说你的形式可以很多元化，但更多的是就是可以在现代题材下功夫，因为会跟你的生活息息相关，然后找到你最熟悉的领域去创作一个好的故事。所以题材其实不是有那么的限制。然后从价值观，我觉得有一个这么多年做电影，就是我们都能感觉到一个共鸣，反映人的真善美。是我们永远都不会变的一个核心，因为作为电影人，他是需要去传播文化的。然后我们传播的是什么？我们的核心，我们的人的向往。我觉得这三个字真的是永恒不变的真善美。所以找到这个核心之后，我觉得你再去发散的去想象你想要表达的东西，就应该不会跑偏。还有就是最重要的就是创新创造。还有就是，基本上所有的新锐导演，他的作品都是原创的作品。我们也是说，原创的作品一定是从你自身的生活或你最有感触的一方面去出发。然后呢，人物我们觉得是要把自己当成观众去对待，不管是大人物还是小人物，都要让他这个人物有内心的力量，这样你才能抓住观众，跟观众有互动。所以。电影的灵魂是人和情感。现在进入到我们的就是剧本选定之后，就开始要用我们的主创班底进到筹备拍摄。常规的那些东西，比如说摄影师啊、美术指导啊、我们的演员啊、录音师啊，这些都是很重要的。但是对于青年导演来说，最重要的一个核心是监制。因为通常他们的第1部长片，我们会担心他自己没有太多的经验，可能把控不了整个全程制作，包括剧本阶段。我们从投资的角度，也希望有一个监制可以全程的来把控他的整个这个过程，然后帮助他在关键的时刻，帮他去，你这个地方走歪了，所以你要回来，对，然后有一个正确的引导。 所以监制在青年导演的项目里起到一个非常关键的作用，尤其是在影片的后期剪辑，我觉得很关键。然后我们对导演呢有一个选择，除了他专业性的就是有一定的专业性，比如说他之前拍过短片、拍过广告可能没有拍过长片没关系，有一些制作的经验，这是一方面。另外，我觉得有一种东西很可贵，就是认真和态度，认真和真诚。我觉得认真是一种态度，真诚是不忘初心。因为现在电影发展的太快了，很多人就会变得很浮躁，就会没有那种我为什么要做电影，我做电影是为了什么，然后我做电影的目的是什么，就是要反复的去问自己这个问题。我觉得这个很重要。所以，但是在中国拍电影，我是觉得有一个很大的感受，是因为在整个制作过程中的大家的专业性还是不够，然后大家很多人会觉得，就是没有很强的规范，没有一个像在这边有一个工会的这种管理和制约，然后在这个领域里，工作人员那种法律意识也会很差。我会碰到这样的例子，去年冬天刚拍完一部电影，然后他们签完合约了，就会说，哎，今天我做的不开心，我就可以回家了，因为我不开心，我来拍电影是开心的。其实这个也很重要，就是因为拍电影是要开心，但是他没有那个意识，就是我既然要做这个事情，我不管遇到什么困难，我都要去坚持下去。他会说，哦，我可以走了，然后签了合约，那没关系，你可以告我，就会有一些这样的情况出现。是因为他们在这个领域里的这种法律意识还不是很强啊，所以呢，你就不知道该怎么去解释，然后可能用各种方法去跟他挽留他。所以这也是我们造成了很多的困难，就是工作人员的不专业性。所以在中国，我觉得整个制作团队的专业的培育和培养都很重要，除了包括我们的制片团队规范，然后还有整个制作的工种的规范，都需要去好好学习。好，然后拍摄完成之后，我觉得2个重要的环节，一个是剪辑，一个是完片过审因为剪辑，我觉得可以用几句话来形容：剧本和剪辑掌握着一部电影的生命。剪辑一部电影的成功，往往是由剪辑来决定，可能说的有点夸张，但是我觉得剪辑在导演的过程中，既是工作上的合作，又是艺术上的互补。因为我曾经碰到过一些新锐导演，他们觉得自己在拍摄过程中遇到比如说遇到很多困难，他这场戏很不容易拍下来，所以他在剪辑的时候就很不舍得放弃。他觉得每一场戏、每一个镜头都那么重要，都是他花了很多心血拍出来的，所以他不会去做减法。但那个时候他自己可能也陷入到剧本、陷入到拍摄那个过程里是跳不出来的，所以这个时候这个环节监制尤其重要。然后他会跳出来说，你要打破你的剧本，打破你在现场拍的所有的那种束缚，重新来看现在的素材，然后重新来整理。可能它是一个重新打乱的一个过程，但是这个过程对一个导演来说是很困难的，因为他脑子里固有的思想很尖锐，他会有很多的坚持，然后把监制呢来给他重新梳理完之后，就会觉得原来还可以这么去组合。这也可能是青年导演他的一个经验不足所以需要有人来把控，然后知道什么是电影化的一个剪辑的重新组合，然后他会豁然开朗原来我的电影组合完了之后是另外一种形态，所以剪辑非常重要。然后说完剪辑，我们说到审查，在中国大家都知道审查制度是非常严格的所以这个审查制度也会影响到初期的一些青年导演的创作。我经常会跟青年导演讲，我说，首先你先在创作的时候，不要先去想我将来要怎么过审，我先写剧本就要把过审的这些问题规避掉。我说这样会局限你的创作，你先去想，先大胆的去构思，然后如果 出来问题之后，我们再帮你去想怎么去规避它。然后也可能，因为每年看似中国的审查制度很严格，它每年都是会有一些小小的变化，因为这些审查的人员他们的欣赏水平也在提高，所以呢，可能不能像以往那样那么固定化。但是拿到了这个，我们就要第一关哈，审查内容的第一关拿到龙标是很关键的，因为在几年，应该在去年以前，大家还可以说。我这个片子就是为了参加电影节的，所以我可以不拿龙标，我直接去海外参奖。但是今年3月份之后开始，有一个强硬的规定，必须拿到龙标才可以去海外参展。所以呢，这也是一个比较硬性的需要完成的，就是首先过的是内容审查，内容审查拿到龙标之后才有资格去参加电影节。然后其次是技术审查，技术审查呢，很多人觉得应该内容审查完了之后应该没有太大问题了，就会比较放松。但其实这一关反而更重要，反而更会影响到我们电影的档期。今天在座的中国人也很多哈，但我就先举一个例子啊，因为冯小刚导演的那个《芳华》，其实他的档期原本是定了在这个那个国庆档。但是因为技术审查那块一直都没有通过，原本计算的时间就错过了，所以他不得不改档。在中国这样的例子特别多，就是原本我们算了2个月的那个技术审查的时间，最后因为反复的修改，就只能改档期。所以这些环节都很重要。那好，我再来讲讲最重要的环节，就是宣发。宣发呢，我们现在正在研究，阿里这边在构建一个很科学的一个宣发平台。因为我在做青年导演这么长时间，在思考一个问题：为什么艺术片不能像商业影片那样去做发行呢？他们的问题到底在哪儿？所以带着这个问题，我在想，从我们阿里出发，我们可以做什么？所以我就要希望是构建这么一个优化的一个宣发平台。首先是跟我们艺术放映联盟的一个合作，然后淘票票是我们的一个现在在国内数一数二的一个票务平台，我们自己的一个对接，然后再到我们优酷这边会开启艺术片频道，就是进入到这个领域以后，线上线下的一个结合，然后再通过我们的数据分析然后让触达到我们的观众去知道有这样的一个影片，所以基本上我们会形成一个从艺术放映联盟，从淘票票、优酷这个线上线下做成一个联动，然后我们自己的就是可以让更多的观众除了在电影院看到，他也可以在网络上看到，可能是在很短的时间，比如说院线上映了半个月。然后在线下优酷就可以看到这部影片，然后这么一个良性的循环，可能会对我们艺术片的发行，对这青年导演的一些影片的发行会有一个很好的帮助。现在我们正在尝试在运作这么一个体系。好，那最后呢，就是我们的各个电影节的一个参奖，更多的我会说。中国的影片还是要在国内的电影节走一遍，然后 A 类电影节如果你能送的话也是最好的。B 类其实是选择性的考虑一些，还有一些其他著名的鹿特丹啊、奥斯卡、多伦多等这些电影节。你们走电影节，让更多的海外的观众来认可你的影片，拿到一些奖项和入围，对于青年导演来说，这是非常重要的一步。因为后面我要讲到。我的影片，就是我们 A 计划已经完成的3部影片，就是走了这么一个过程。第一个呢叫《被阳光移动的山脉》，是一个西藏的电影，讲的是一个喇嘛面对爱情和信仰的抉择。然后这个影片现在已经是获得了上海国际电影节亚洲新人奖的最佳剧本奖，然后也得到了，就刚刚在昨天。刚刚得到了塞班国际电影节最佳剧本和最佳摄影奖，然后入围已经有很多了，然后我们 Ash 追踪也是入围了釜山电影节，还有今年贾樟柯刚刚办的平遥国际电影节的竞赛单元，也去参加了金马和塔林的影展。 在码头是贾樟柯监制的一部影片，也是入围了釜山国际电影节还有平遥国际电影的竞赛单元。然后这3个影片都是不同的风格，我们通过走海外电影节，有一些让更多人看到之后，回过头来我们再做国内的一个营销和上映。这3个影片真的外面有一些资料，如果大家有兴趣的话，可以去拿着了解一下。基本上呢，我想分享的就是这些。我觉得最关键的是有几句话送给大家。我觉得电影是对生活最动人的比喻。这句话我是在一个杂志上看到的，我很喜欢，所以也分享给大家。然后就是鼓励青年电影人，请坚持你们的选择，我们一起加油，谢谢。
谢谢。Hello. 你好。Привет. Salam. Forgive me if I haven't covered your nationality, but in any event, my Chinese is so pure and so perfect that I shall do this in English, so as not to shame anybody or embarrass anyone. And interestingly enough, I'm delighted to be here. Matthew Tong has taken incredibly good care of me and presumably others. And he said, I'd like you to speak on independent film. And I said, well, the reality is that in the independent film world, there really are no rules. And obviously there are exceptions to those rules. And in fact, right now I am experiencing those exceptions because I'm doing a movie with a Chinese partner. And as you all know, there are rules there. Though I am delighted to be doing it, and I'll explain that in greater detail later if it's of interest to you all, and I really encourage some sort of interaction, some questions and answers. It would be really, I think, beneficial to everyone. And part of the no rules aspect of this is that there are no charts, there are no photographs, there are no visual aids of any kind, because they don't, in my opinion, it's just best to speak from the heart and really convey many years of experience in ways that I think might be helpful and enlightening. And in the process, I think I'll try the best of my ability to incorporate the theme of the weekend, which is co-production and incubation, which my estimation is development. We call incubation development, and co-productions and distribution. So I think that the main takeaway here is that in the no rules aspect of it all, is that you can never really make a good film from a bad script. You just can't. You can make a bad film from a good script. You can screw it up badly. So it's very important to start with a great piece of material. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Unfortunately, sometimes in the co-production world, you have to make some changes and some compromises in order to appeal to various partners, which don't necessarily reflect, the best and brightest of what this movie, of what a particular project can be. So it's a delicate balance. In reality, you can mismarket a beautiful film, and it'll do no business. You can brilliantly market a bad film, it'll do terrific business. You can make $1 million film that'll do $50 million in business. You can make a $50 million film that'll do $1 million in business. So in reality, I think that the only rule in the non-rules part of it all is to make the best, the most marketable, the most appealing project you can for the most responsible and reasonable budget you can make it for. Make it the most appealing you can without compromising it for your production partners and your subsidies and territories. And what goes with that really is that if you have a great piece of material, you will get presumably a great cast for, within reason, whatever you have to pay them. And part of the problem in the movie business in the past is that we've been led to believe that you need to spend $20 million for an actor that opens a film or an actress, but that's not really the case anymore. If you have a great piece of material, you will get whoever you want within reason for whatever you have to pay them. An example of that is a little movie I made a couple of years ago called The Sessions, which on the surface is unbelievably unmarketable. It's about a man with polio who can't move from the neck down, who is a devout Catholic, a guilty Catholic, who wants to learn how to have sex for the first time at 35. You tell me how to market that film? Well, the only way to do it is to make sure you get a great cast and to make the film that is on that page, because it is beautiful. It is impossible to get help at the start for that. So we put together $750,000 in cash, and we went out and made the best one we could make, and we sold it in Sundance in a bidding war for about $6.5 million, which may not sound like a ton of money, but it's a certainly, decent return on your investment for a film. Had we made that film for $6 million, which probably we would not have the opportunity to have done, we really wouldn't have made a profit. We wouldn't have made a better film. And there's, in many respects, very little correlation between the amount of money spent and the amount of money returned. As long as you make put on the screen everything you've got without compromising your film, you don't really need to waste money. Now, don't get me wrong, if somebody wants to pay me a fortune and make a film for them, I still would be responsible, but I'm not above taking fees. I just, as a producer, I think it's really, really important to walk the walk and to set the standard for the rest of the production. And in many respects, and this is what I do all the time, is I waive my fees. I take a piece of the movie, of course, if it makes money, and that's, in many respects, the way in which the movie business is going to continue to have integrity. Obviously, people need a living wage and people need to get by, but if we're all working on projects that are labors of love and ones that speak to us and speak to us from the heart, we will have a better quality of material. Presumably, we will be able to make them a little more easily, and they will, if they're made for the right reasons, resonate and presumably be better films for it and elevate the whole standard of our business. And again, there are no rules. And I was talking about profitability, for instance. A lot of people think that the most profitable film in 20th Century Fox, in the history of 20th Century Fox in the mid or late 90s was Titanic. When it had eclipsed $1 billion in international box office, but ironically that year, The Full Monty, which was a little film that they made for $3.5 million, was by far the most profitable film in the Fox family. So again, there's very, very, very little correlation between the amount of money spent and the amount of money returned. Though you can obviously you can actually mismarket, and as I said earlier, and do no service to a great film, and brilliantly market and do quite a bit of service to a weak film. The other thing is to keep in mind that if in the entertainment world, when you're trying to get things done and trying to get a cast for as little as you can, you should really go against type. And I'm not sure that I'm speaking. I'm speaking from experience here. I'm not sure that this will impact you all, but I'll give you an example. About 10 years ago, and this is sort of factors into the co-production of it all and the international distribution of it all. I had put together a film which was loosely based on The Wizard of Oz, and we had a young actress named Angelina Jolie to play the lead, and she was coming off of a film called Girl Interrupted, getting a lot of attention, and my partner on it, foreign sales partner, said, "No, I'm sorry, she doesn't move the needle for us. So please, let's look to someone who's a little more accomplished," and that movie fell apart because of it. She won the Academy Award that year. So the foreign sales market was not willing to bend the rules and play the game in order to get this particular film made, and they still have a problem with that. In fact, a couple of years ago, I had met with a young Chinese actress named Selena Jade, who's fabulous, for a movie that I'm actually making now as a Chinese production, which we can talk about later. And she's presumably still going to be involved, but at the time she didn't move the needle for our production, and I think she's in China this weekend accepting an award for one of the top 10 emerging Chinese stars. Let's see if I also want to touch on a couple of things in terms of today's market as it relates to no rules. I mean, clearly, if you can get a bankable movie star to do something for as little as you can get them to do it for, that's great. But I hate to sort of cast a rain cloud here, but you look at a case of certain behavior of certain actors today, you can cast a movie star, and before your movie comes out, something can emerge in the news that will literally render that film valueless. So that's a pretty interesting place in which to sort of take the business, because if you take it to its logical conclusion, what does that mean? It means, in many respects, we're going to have Lloyd's of London or somebody step up and really insure our films for behavior. It's a bit of a tangent, I know I'm digressing, but it's the other end of the spectrum from getting an emerging star. I mean, you can get a movie star, but that movie star could really, really hurt you with behavior that comes up before the release of your film. Clearly, we all know that the Getty film, the richest man in the world, the richest man in the room, all the money in the world, like I said, which, by the way, is co-starring an actor named Tim Hutton, who I worked with on a movie here in Vancouver called Iceman in 1980-something at Lionsgate Studios, and was an extremely pleasurable experience. So Robert is correct. It's an extraordinary place to make a movie. And I'm actually going to be making a movie here next year too. A Hunter Thompson adaptation of a film of a book called The Curse of Lana, which will shoot between Hawaii and Vancouver. But I really, I'm in a unique place because I make studio films, and I'm not opposed to that at all. I'm obsessed with independent films because I literally like to champion films that have virtually no chance of getting made. I'm obsessed with the documentary world because I think they can change the world. And so I have my foot in my finger in every pie, and I kind of see it from a very unique perspective. And excuse me, I'm losing my voice. What I really would prefer to do is, if it matters to you, and if it interests you, I'd like to just ask anybody out there if they want to discuss the state of the business, if they want to discuss the state of distribution or incubation as it relates to, from my point of view, development. Which I do quite a bit of, by the way. I adapt a lot of books because they are typically the best underlying material for narrative feature films, and they are quite marketable if you pick the right material. But I don't have, I literally could speak about this forever, but I want to make sure it really does resonate and pertain to what it is that you all expected today. So presumably, the best way to proceed is to ask you all if you have any questions, and if you don't, I will banter a bit further and then turn over the mic. But does anybody have any interest, anything that they want to touch upon? Anything that, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for all your insights. We live in Los Angeles, and our film show is up here. And Sue's our director. And we, as an independent film company, she was a student who came to us with this project, coming from her own experience. I jumped on I've been working as a studio musician, been working in the industry for 30 years, and became a producer by default. And this possibility to create, as you say, something that is that no studio would be interested in. It's a beautiful story. I felt very strongly that her story needed to be told. We couldn't find anybody to be interested in it, and so we jumped in. And when you say $750,000 for your film, I'm laughing because we spent a little bit of money on ours, and it's not going to be bought for $6 million. But maybe somebody will take it for something. But I think the idea that you truly need to believe that you are that what you have is viable, and that you continue to have that conversation. So we're as an independent filmmaker, there's no doors that you can open and get your foot into. Where do you how do you stay honest to your film without having to sell your soul so that you can get it made? At the end of the day, we self-funded, and we had one other company that funded with us. But we were so convinced that it really was our story. We didn't want to have another influence. But in that, of course, then you spend more money than you can because you don't have a collaboration. And I think that collaboration piece is difficult. And I just don't know, what's the best way to find, to do that and still be able to make your film.
There is no best way.
Yeah, of course.
And there are no rules, but I think it's interesting. Again, you have to make something from your heart, from your soul, and people say, well, what kind of movies do you make? And I say, well, movies that are worth making. There's just so much garbage out there, and it's so hard to get movies made that it's really, really important, again, to start from a great piece of material, whether it's commercial or not, that you believe in your heart will resonate. And in your case, for instance, you made it in the absence of distribution, presumably. That is, in many respects, the definition of the independent movie world. So it's making films in the absence of distribution. That is both a blessing and a curse. You can end up with no distribution, or you can end up with a distribution partner who gives you so many rules and regulations that you can't, and conditions, cast and what have you, content, that you can't make the movie that is in your heart that you believe is true to who you are. So there's a fine line there, and I see it both ways. And we make movies for what we can make them for. Obviously, there is a threshold at which you go below and you compromise the integrity of your movies. So, you certainly need enough money to get an in-focus story that you can tell on screen. You need to feed your cast, etc. But if you can answer the question why you made it, then I think, and you can sell that, and you have conveyed that, then I believe there are buyers out there for you. Now, the reality is it's a buyer's market unless there's a bidding war on something, so it's not as though they're going to give you a fortune for whatever it is, particularly if you don't have any other offers. But again, you clearly have passion, your filmmaker clearly has passion, you transitioned from the music world into the movie world, music side of the movie world. And again, producers are, it's a good joke in Hollywood, the producers are anyone that knows the writer. And in the old days, there really wasn't a producer school. They've emerged in the last 10 or 15 years. I'm going to tell one more joke in a second because it's actually really, really important for this business. But I can't answer your question satisfactorily. I think that all I can say is I'd love to hear about your movie. I think we should all discuss it, figure out exactly how it was, how you got it made, and how we can help expose it to people who might want to distribute it. And by the way, just interestingly enough, I make a lot of documentaries, and a lot of them I'm involved with, and I retain the feature film rights to them because a lot of them are amazing pieces of underlying material for feature films. And I think about 20 years ago, there was a movie made called Jersey Girl. I might be getting this wrong, but a variation of this theme is true. It was made for a couple $1 million, and I think Peter Guber and John Peters, when they were at Sony, bought the movie so that they can remake it as a much more expensive movie because they liked what it said. So it was almost a $2 million or $3 million promo reel, essentially. But the people involved, they unfortunately recast it and that sort of thing. And I could be getting a little bit of it wrong, but look, this is an interesting point. If your story is incredible and you didn't necessarily nail it the way you wanted or the way you hoped other people would embrace it, it's possible to use that as a promo reel to go out and say, see, this is what we want to make with, in this particular way. We didn't have the resources that we believed we needed. to sell it properly, and that is, honestly, that's viable. I think that's reasonable. I'm going to tell you a really funny joke, and then I want to, I'm sorry, I think it's funny. Hopefully you will. Screenwriter calls his agent and says, "Did you read my screenplay?" And the agent says, "Yes." And the screenwriter says, "Well, what would you think of it?" And the agent says, "I don't know." He said, "What do you mean you don't know?" And the agent said, "Well, I'm the only one that's read it." And the humor lies in the fact that very few people in this business have an opinion of their own unless they get the support from other people that they need to like something. And I'll give you another example as it practically relates to the movie business and the science of screening movies. I had made a comedy in 1999, I think, or 2000, and I was inviting some people to come and view it. And a friend of mine called me and he said, "You're showing it in the wrong venue. Don't show it in that theater." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, it's a long, narrow theater. And comedies don't play well in long, narrow theaters." So I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because if people don't see that other people are enjoying something, they don't want to be the only fool in the room laughing out loud. They need to see through their peripheral vision that other people are enjoying it to give them the freedom and the courage to laugh. So you need to view it, a comedy, you need to screen a comedy in a wide theater that isn't deep and narrow." That was very enlightening for me. And in many respects, it's not unrelated to the conversation we're having. How do you enjoy something? Do you need to have other people validate what it is that you have made in order for it to get traction? In some cases you do, because there are not a lot of courageous people out there who are willing to go out on a limb and buy something, unless they have a unique marketing plan or it speaks to them in some unique way. Anyhow, we can talk about it later, but yeah. Okay, we gotta wrap up. Right after you, we'll wrap up.
You mentioned, the labor of love and the waiving of the fees. If you have some creative producers, directors, writers who have a great story to tell, would you recommend them to go according to their labor of love, or go to the Alibaba with all the rules and restrictions and criteria and tests to be able to go ahead?
I guess there was a movie about that called Sophie's Choice. But I think that it really depends. I mean, if you can get it made in a purely independent sense and make it exactly the way you want with exactly the people who you had in mind, it's a risk, but it might be better for your soul. If you find a partner, like I'd be very grateful to be involved with Alibaba, so I would probably bend the rules. But they may see it your way as well. It's not mutually exclusive. It doesn't mean that because you're going to a major company, they don't want the movie that you want to make. That's part of a negotiation. That's part of a relationship that you may or may not be able to build before you make that commitment. So my instincts typically are just to go and make movies from my heart with the people I know who will back me in them, and just go do them and see where the chips fall. And forgive me for this, but ironically, I am doing a little film this year called Freak Power. And there was a movie that's directed and written by Robert Kennedy III. It's the grandson of Robert Kennedy. And it's about Hunter Thompson running for sheriff in Aspen, Colorado, and we were going out to make it for $1.5 million. And as we were going out to cast the film, it caught the attention of the head of worldwide distribution at Sony. And they are acquiring the film now. By the way, that's not announced. I'm sorry, the head of worldwide distribution at a non-specific studio. And we're negotiating the deal now. We're going to make the film as a studio acquisition. We're getting a little bit more money, and there are a few rules. There are a few casting suggestions that they have. We don't have as much freedom as we did in the original independent plan. But frankly, it's a better safety net. It's a better net. What do they call it when you jump in a circus? A net. What is it? Safety net. So that's a trade-off we're making, and we're choosing to do it. But I can see it both ways, honestly. And you may not get what you want in the independent movie world, and you may get Alibaba to say yes, and you can live with whatever it is they need. So honestly, it's really, really, really about how badly you want to make something and how much you're willing to sacrifice your original vision. That's all I got. But I'm here all weekend, folks.
Thank you, Stephen. So up next is John DuPont, and he's here to talk to us about how to work with Telefilm. And he's got a little bit of experience with it, being the national project lead for Ontario and Western Canada for Telefilm.
Hello. Thanks for having me, inviting me to do this today. I didn't really prepare a presentation because I just find PowerPoints kind of boring, frankly. So, just a quick show of hands. How many people in the room are Canadian filmmakers? Okay, that's pretty good chunk. Okay, I'll be just a kind of, and I won't take a ton of time because we've got a good website and you can get a lot of the information from that. I'm also told, by the way, that I speak too quickly, so if I'm speaking too quickly, that's just a bad habit, and let me know. So, Telefilm Canada, your tax dollars and mine at work. We are a Canadian arm's-length federal public funding agency. So we operate under the umbrella of Canadian Heritage. They're our boss, although they don't have a lot of day-to-day functionality with us. So basically, we're in a couple of different key businesses that appeal to Canadian filmmakers and obviously co-production partners, because that's another big piece of what we do. Just broadly speaking, Telefilm is an organization. It's about $100 million a year budget. We're across 4 regional offices, so it's a national organization. I'm based in the Vancouver office. We also have an office in Ontario, one in Quebec, which is our head office in Montreal, and one in the Atlantic region in Halifax. So filmmakers from across the country can work with us. The things we do, broadly speaking, are kind of as follows. We administer financing programs generally, so we have many different sort of streams of financing. It's equity financing, except if it's in one particular program, which is our micro-budget program, which is a grant. That's always usually a happy thing for people to hear. So we do financing across various levels of budget range. We do co-production. We basically administer, we do co-production certification on behalf of Heritage. So we administer the co-production paperwork process, basically, and we've got treaties with about 60 countries right now. And if you go onto our website, if you're looking to do co-production, which, I mean, a lot of kind of the larger budget projects that we get involved with would be co-pros, there's actually pretty good resources on our website because you can find kind of a production directory of companies that we've worked with before in co-production that we're familiar with, that are familiar with, excuse me, us. And it's not like we necessarily invest in all of the co-productions that would come to us, but we do, provide all the sort of certification services so that they can get their tax credits and whatnot else that they might have in their financing structure. So we've got a lot of specialists in co-production. I am not one of them, but if you have specific co-production questions, you can certainly forward them my way, or I can connect you with someone in our co-pro office. The other thing we do, and this is also kind of I don't know how many people really necessarily know this, but if you're a filmmaker and you end up getting invited to an international film festival, another kind of a suite of services that we do is support for international film festivals. We administer, along with a lot of the provincial agencies like Creative BC, for instance, the Canadian Pavilion in places like Cannes. We're at the European Film Market in Berlin. We're at Busan usually. It's a number of places that you'll find Telefilm. And again, as a Canadian filmmaker, if you end up with a film in a significant foreign festival, please reach out to us and make sure that we know you're there, and we can make sure that you're kind of invited to be part of the suite of things that we might be doing or involved with in those markets. And we also, the other cool kind of thing, you don't even have to be invited yet, but we also do pre-selection in our Montreal office for about 6 or 7 of the key festivals. So Berlin, Cannes, Sundance, Locarno, Busan, maybe one or two others. Canadian filmmakers can send their films to us. We do have calls for entry, so I should back up. See, this is why a PowerPoint would be kind of handy, because then I could actually refer to my own notes. So if you go to our website and you sign up for kind of updates from us, you'll get probably bombed with all sorts of stuff that you'll just kind of hit delete on. But if you're interested in calls for entry to those pre-selections, what we do is we collect all the films in our Montreal office, we bring the programmers from those festivals into Montreal for a week to 10 days, and then we screen them for them. It's a really cool process, and when I used to be involved in the feature film side of what we did, I always wanted to meet the programmers, and I could never, there was always this sort of wall between the two, like, you cannot meet the programmers, they need confidentiality. So there's a bit of that, but the cool thing is you can get your film in front of programmers through us versus over the transom with the other 7,000 entries that Sundance might get, for instance. So I think your chances are probably better that you're going to be properly seen as a submission. So definitely go to our website and sign up for updates, and you can receive those, and then you'll get the calls for entry, and you can proceed from there. So what else can I tell you about us? I guess the other question I'm asked a lot is how does someone get Telefilm financing? The key thing for us in terms of who we work with is it's Canadian ownership and control. So if it's a co-production, by virtue of going through the treaty process, it's considered de facto Canadian for us, kind of 8 of 10. We have to, but on everything else that we do, it's ownership and control has got to be Canadian. So that's kind of the first rule. And when you start looking for partners, that's an interesting thing to try and negotiate, or to see whether in fact there is a treaty in place. Or in the case of like the U.S., we don't have a treaty with the U.S. and never will. It just doesn't work that way. But you can do co-ventures. We do a lot of them. We don't particularly, but Canada does a lot of them, obviously, with the U.S. I'm going to actually, probably easier to sort of, I'm probably forgetting a whole bunch of swaths of what we do. The other kind of key thing is if you're involved in the television side of things, we also administer the contractual paperwork for the Canada Media Fund. So if you happen to, if you apply to the CMF for any of their sort of television financing, you will end up at Telefilm's door, but it'll just be literally us doing the contract work, because there's, it's a broadcast envelope kind of process. So we do know that world, and again, it's one of those ones where I can't get the intelligence on what's happening on the TV side because that's over there on the CMF side. So your information is safe at the very least. How's that? Any questions from any of the filmmakers in the room about how or what we do, or the other question would be for the filmmakers out there: are you in first films, second films? Where are you in the kind of spectrum?
Our first film.
So you've made one, or you're about to make one?
We're working on it.
You're working on one. Okay.
My question is, do you need to have like basically about rules on the site that you have to have a producer and also a distribution deal, or maybe with the network for even being qualified for the fund?
No, not necessarily. It depends on where you're applying to us from. So where would you see your budget?
2.5 million.
Okay, that's a hard budget these days. That's kind of the dead zone. No, I'm kidding. But it's a hard place in Canada to finance, because there's really, that means you're going to probably have to go. It's almost like you need to go up to maybe bring some co-production money into it. So at that budget level, what we would need from you, that would be kind of more of a national project for us. Yeah, we'd need some market interest. We'd need you to have a Canadian distributor on board. They'd need to put some money up. At Telefilm, we're not a studio. We're an investor, but so we'll evaluate a project and try and figure out whether it's competitive versus within the pool of projects we're looking at. We're not about to give anybody sort of casting notes, and we're not about to but we do need to see that you've got a producer attached at that level, at that budget. Yes, we would. In order to probably get the market interest, like a distributor or a sales events, you're probably going to need some cast attached at this point. You're certainly going to need a director to attach the cast. So yeah, those are the kind of key elements. The other piece that you would probably think about in terms of Telefilm at that budget level, we're probably somewhere in the range of, realistically in your financing plan, somewhere in the range of maybe 20 to 30% is what you would want to put in there just in terms of a possibility.
Yeah.
But that's going to depend on all those other kind of factors.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Yeah.
So we're producing, it's my first feature documentary, but it's about 500,000 US. We're about 70% through principal photography, just sort of bootstrapping it along. It's an artist, it's about a Colombian artist, is very well known worldwide. And so I guess, how do you guys approach documentaries, and what kind of criteria would you be looking for? Because we are actually just looking for about $200,000 to get us across the line.
Yeah. We have a theatrical documentary fund. It's a once-a-year deadline process, and it's in the fall, so it's typically kind of end of September, which may or may not work with your timing. In that fund, we can look at production from the start, or it can deal with completion. We partner with Rogers on that fund, and so what you'd need is, because of the Rogers piece, you'd need a broadcast threshold pre-license of 15%.
In Canada?
In Canada, yeah. Do you have that? Yeah?
No.
No, okay. But that's something maybe to work toward. And then if you look at our website, I forget the exact number you can come into us for, but it'd be about, probably think we're 175, something like that. So that's a possibility. Again, it's a once-a-year deadline, and it's from year to year. I mean, some years they don't have, a million things to look at. Some years they do. So it kind of depends on where you come in that stream. The other thing we have is our micro-budget program, which has now been renamed the Talent to Watch program. And that's for, your budget's a bit high for that, but that program is kind of set up for $250,000 budgets or less, and documentary is eligible for that, both at the production phase and at the completion stage. So if you have a project that's a doc that's a little bit lower, and if it's your first doc, you could think about that Talent to Watch program as well.
So if your documentary, you aren't eligible for the other programs you've been describing, is that right?
No, like our standard production program, no, we've kind of separated the envelopes between narrative and documentary. It just made it a lot easier for us and for everybody else, because there's an awful lot of the narrative stuff that there's never enough money for at the end of the day. Anybody else? There we go. Thank you. Because I'm just like dying up here.
Happy to help. First note, feature film, psychological horror. We've got a short film concept, and we're looking for very low budget, 200,000.
Well, good for you. Because doing the short sort of proof of concept thing,
Yeah.
that's great, because that'll give somebody
Good.
something to look at. Are you based in Vancouver?
Yes.
You got a couple ways to go with that. I mean, you could look at it as a Talent to Watch micro budget kind of thing, because
Okay.
that's $250 or less. The way that program works is you don't send it directly to us. You take a look at the website. You'll see partners. So what
Okay.
we've done is, in our ingenious stretch your tax dollars way, which kind of worked. We reached out to a whole bunch of different industry partners to do that intake for us. So you need to go through one of them. So you need to be affiliated with either one of the training schools, or if you don't have that kind of affiliation, join one of the film co-ops. They do a call for entries. It's usually around January, so the timing's actually not bad. They will receive a whole bunch of applications, and they can submit a couple of their recommendations to us. Then we'll set up a jury and look through those about 80 different projects we'll get to. And so this is also a good year, because when we launched this, we rebranded it as the Talent to Watch Fund. The thing's been run, the fund has been about 5 years now running. We put more money into it this year. We've doubled the budget. So we're actually, our goal this year is to finance 50 low budget films. So which makes the odds actually not that bad,
Yeah.
when you consider it. So if you're based in Vancouver here, and the partners here would be, what are our partners? CAP, UBC, Cineworks, which is the easy one because anybody can join Cineworks. Just take a look at the website, you'll see it.
Okay.
And just bear in mind the deadlines, because most of them will be doing the call for entries probably around January, and that sounds like it'd be right up that alley for
Yeah.
that.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, that's good. The other thing I'll leave you with is just our website, www.telefilm.ca. We are your funding agency, so there should be no question. We're like don't make it a black box. If you have any questions, just you can find us all on the website. Our protocol is basically first name dot last name at telefilm.ca, so you can find anybody, and it's our job to actually get back to you. So thanks for coming, and enjoy the festival.
Can you hear me without this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's someone here with a hearing. Do I need this one? Aha, that's it. Okay. 谢谢我的节目，一力共集结出一股许多这个料。That's it, didn't I? Okay. You folks have been inundated with all kinds of data, facts and figures and what have you. I'm not really that interested in facts and figures, except I'll share one thing with you. A couple of years ago, they called me from the Academy, and they informed me that I have worked with over 100 Academy Award winners and or nominees. They made me feel very old. That many. Well, Kurosawa, Eastwood, Tarantino, Truffaut. What I learned from this experience is actually reduced to something that unites us all. Our quest for feel good. From the very moment we are brought into life, we seek feel good. Feel good is what a very famous Chinese philosopher, Spinoza. Spinoza wrote, that when you analyze an emotion, you dispel the emotion and you are left with only an intellectual concept. That grabbed me. I don't want to be an intellectual concept. I don't want to embrace intellectual concepts. I love emotion. I love feel good. So today, China has emerged as an enormous economic power. But China lacks branding. Think of Italy. What do you think of? Pasta. France, wine. Germany, beer. Sweden, IKEA. Think of China. What's the brand? China does everything. They produce everything. But what is the emotional brand of China? Has that been captured yet? MGM, 20th Century Fox, Universal, global brands. MGM, the musicals. 20th, they have their stuff. Universal, the tours, the this and the that, the spectaculars. Alibaba. Man, this itty bitty guy, Jack Ma. What has he produced? It's amazing what he has produced. So, China, on the other hand, the brand of China, the feel-good brand for China, isn't there yet. When we talk about movies, films, what is the driving force of successful movies? We go to see them because we feel good, whether or not it's a romantic movie or whatever it is, even a horror picture. Oh my God! Well, we have an emotional reaction to whatever we are seeing, and that's powerful. That reinforces feel good, because feel good is feel, right? So, listening this morning to filmmakers asking about this, asking about that, and Hollywood and this and that. The one thing that I do know is listen to your inner voice. If it feels good, do it. If it doesn't feel good, no matter how much money is on the table, don't do it. Inevitably, the value of all that money will be diminished because you are left with feel bad. Feel good. Those of you who write what makes you feel good. Even more importantly, we all wish to be validated as the persons we know ourselves to be. And we would like others to appreciate. How do we get there? How do I get you to like me for the person I know myself to be? Well, I'm not likable, so that's not gonna happen. But that is what drives us. And we go about this in many different ways. Some of us, we pay a lot of attention to how we dress, how we speak, ladies, makeup, hair, what have you, right? So if we focus on the importance of our need to be appreciated for the persons we know ourselves to be. What better way than motion pictures? When we can take the essence of us and have it embodied in a motion picture, what's the end result? Well, thank you for asking me that question. On any given day, any given moment, 5 billion people are watching either television or a movie. 5 billion people at any given moment. Now, a little over 7 billion people on Earth. Alibaba. What's the challenge for Alibaba? Well, about 1.4 million speak Mandarin. Alibaba's focus has been on Mandarin language, entertainment, and all the other things that Alibaba does. But a little over 4 billion people on Earth understand English. Even more importantly is the fact, a well-made motion picture, a motion picture that is infused with emotion, a storyline. In other words, if it's driven by an organic content, you can take that movie out into the Gobi Desert. It doesn't matter what language it was written in, or what language is spoken, take it out into the Gobi Desert, turn the volume off. People will see the movie, and they'll get it. because of the visual content. Which is yet another reason why motion pictures are so highly important in how the world evolves. Visual stimulation. Now, the Hollywood that made America well known throughout the world no longer exists. It's gone. Greed has taken over. MBAs, lawyers, business people now run Hollywood. Whereas 100 years ago, some Jewish guys from Russia, Latvia, Estonia, whatever, they had a need to create something that reflected who they were. The origin of Hollywood. But that Hollywood no longer exists. So those of you who seek to get inside Hollywood, don't bother. Just don't bother. Instead, find elements that support your reason for wanting to make that movie to begin with. So let's take a little moment, step back here. Why are we making this movie? Ask yourself that. Who is my audience? Why would that audience care about this story? Well, you have got to figure that stuff out. And then you take your feel-good, your passion, and you put that into that story, because now you know that you have people in mind who will appreciate that story. Don't take it to Hollywood. Hollywood gets 12,000 scripts every day. 12,000 scripts. Agents and managers in Hollywood. Do you know, I've been in this business for 50 years, okay? I've been a member of the Academy since 1985. I have worked with all these people. I have gotten gazillion awards and stuff. Meaningless. Today, if I want to talk to an agent, I have to find an agent who will put me in touch with that agent. People are so afraid of making a decision. You see, when you're in Hollywood and you make a decision, if you say yes to something, you're responsible. But when you say no, no problem. No problem. You cannot be held accountable, but you can be when you say yes. So, when we are independent filmmakers, and inevitably we all are, including Tarantino, he's an independent filmmaker because he is one entity. And then he needed Harvey, and Harvey needed Quentin, and so they made a bunch of movies together. Today, however, we need to find the elements, the actor, who means something. We need the money. By the way, how many in here are investors? Movie investors? Why are we here, people? The very people we need, they aren't here. So why are we talking? Oh yes, because we love each other. We love each other's needs. Oh yes, I get it. Okay. So to get the attention of the money, a really important part of that process is your passion. When you feel something, see, even the biggest banks, they get passionate. Well, they get it, because they don't have any. It goes back to feel good. So when you come in, no matter what your gender or whatever it is, when you are passionate about something, somebody will listen. But when you come in and you're on a head trip, and you come in, well, you see, and you come in with the data and this and that and whatever, and then you have all the excuses and blah, 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 blah. When you come in with passion, when you come in with that unique part of you, people will listen because they will feel you. And we are in the emotion business. We don't go to the movies and we don't sit and watch a movie like this, but we sit, we're open to the experience. Anyhow, I don't want to bore you. Any questions other than data? Because we've had enough of that. Anything anybody wants to know from me? Then I'm done. Thank you all for letting me share this moment with you. Share.
Thank you.
Some まずは今日お招きくださってこんな光栄な場所にありがとうございます。
Thank you so much for inviting me today.
これうまいくない？
Is there one more microphone?
ちょっと僕中国語も英語もちょっと
ありがとうございます。
僕中国語も日本語も英語もちょっとうまくないんでちょっと日本語でちょっと通訳の方でやらせていただきます。よろしくお願いします。
I can't speak Chinese and I can't speak English well, so I will talk in Japanese today and then I will use translator next to me, which is me. Thank you.
日本映画で先ほど坊さんも日本映画にたくさん出られて今日すごく光栄なんですけど、いろいろ有名な映画監督や映画が海外に出たりしてて多少は皆さんもしてくれてるんでしょうけども脚本っていう部分に関してはそんなに皆さん多分知らないと思うのでその歴史を少し今日は話させてもらってそれから今の我々の今の現状みたいなものを話させてもらったらなと思います。
I think a lot of people already know bits of a Japanese movie, what Japanese movies are, and then I think here has appeared in a Japanese movie as well. But then today I want to talk about like a history of Japanese movies, and then also I don't think a lot of people know about screenwriting of Japanese movies. So I want to focus on that part.
日本の映画制作と歴史っていうのは世界的に見て結構古くて今から120年前ぐらいからもうあったんですけどその頃映画はまだ活動写真と呼ばれていてでそれは音のないサイレント映画に弁士って呼ばれる人が、今でいうナレーターのような人なんですけどそういう人がスクリーンの横に立って僕が今喋ってるように登場人物のセリフを言ったり行動を説明したりしてたんですね。
I believe that Japanese film production history is one of the oldest ones in the world. 120 years ago, films were still called motion pictures, which were silent movies with a narrator standing in front of a screen and explaining what the movies were about.
それがきっと脚本の日本における脚本の基礎になっていてその頃から脚本っていうものはあったんですね。で日本では古くから一筋二抜け三動作っていうことわざみたいなのがあって映画におけるこれはいい映画を作るこの法則を言葉にしたようなものなんですけど解説すると映画作りにおいてまず一番大切なのはお話筋で次に大切なのは絵作りですねその次に俳優そしてアクションっていうこの優先順位に成り立ってたんですね。
So since then, screenwriting has existed. And in Japan, there's an old phrase that describes what a good movie is. The phrase is ichisuji ni nuke sandosa. What this phrase means is that the most important element in film production is the story, which is suji. And the second most important factor is production, which is nuke. And the last one is dosa.
で、動作
It's
is action. で、実際日本の映画制作者たちその頃は脚本家をとても大事にしていて、その頃大きな映画の制作会社が5つあったんですけど、その中で専属の脚本家が所属して、そこでみんな脚本を書いていて、で彼らはハリウッド映画の作劇を下地にして、そこにこう日本人特有の風俗をこう混ぜ込んで新しい物語を作っていって、その中でたくさん傑作が生まれていって、でその中で技術というものも生まれていって、その技術はこう上から下にこう受け継がれていったんですね。それが今でも基礎になっている。
So in fact, past film producers in Japan valued screenwritings very highly. At the golden age of film industry, there were 5 big movie companies, and each company had exclusive screenwriters who tried their best to produce good scripts. They created new stories by using Hollywood screenplays as a base and blended unique Japanese morality into it. Many masterpieces were born during this time, and that skill was passed on down the next generations, and as a result, the script writing skill became a tradition.
それから映画産業が少しずつ衰退していって本数も少なくなっていったら、その伝統もだんだんとこう姿を消していって、でそれと同じ頃にヨーロッパからその、ヌーベルバーグの影響もあったりして、日本では次第にこう作家主義が生まれて始めるんですね。で興行としての映画から芸術としての映画に移り変わって、でこれは制作会社のものだった映画がね、制作会社のものだった映画が監督のものになることを意味していったんですね。
Then the tradition gradually disappeared. The film industry declined. In addition, the influence of Europe and Nouveau Vogue resulted in the birth of the auteur. Film production shifted from show business to artwork. This meant that films no longer belong to movie companies but to movie directors.
で映画が監督のものになると、脚本家の立場もやっぱり変わっていくわけですよね。で監督の意思が尊重されるんで、脚本家の個性がなかなかちょっとこう出せなくなっていってしまって、でそれにやっぱこう、嫌気がさすというか、そういう人たちは必然的にこう脚本家の質が下がっていくわけです。脚本っていうものの質が下がっていくわけですよね。でそれが元で映画業界を去っていって、テレビや演劇に向かっていく脚本家もたくさんいたんですよね、当時。
After film started to belong to film directors, the position of screenwriters changed. What happened was that screenwriters' originality began to be oppressed because movie directors' decisions were valued more. As a result, importance of scripts declined and the quality of screenwriters fell as well.
で今日本映画界っていうのはまた今大きく変化していっていて、新しい問題に直面している。でそれは何かっていうと、その予算の賃金の格差ですね。で市場は大手制作会社のもう一人勝ちで、それ以外はもう大作映画の10分の1の制作費で作られている。でその煽りをやっぱり食らうのは脚本家やその仕切るスタッフたちで、その人たちの賃金も下がっていって、で作られる映画の質も下がっているですね。
And today, the Japanese movie industry has started to have a big change again, and we are facing a new problem, which is an increase of the funding gap. The Japanese film market is dominated by big movie companies, and other smaller companies need to create films in 1/10 of the budget that the big companies use. And this influences heavily the staff who are directly related to production of movies. Their salaries has been decreasing even though the amount of work has kept increasing.
で脚本についてのコメントでなんでこんな現場の話をするかっていうと、やっぱりそれの現象っていうのは脚本作りにやっぱり密接に関わってくることで、映画制作において予算と想像力っていうのはやっぱり比例するものですよね。そんなことなくて現の想像力を駆使してね、予算をこう補っていい映画を作っていくのが我々の正しいスタンスだっていう思いももちろん僕だと持ってるんですけど、だけどやっぱりどっかそれも強がりに聞こえてしまうところがやっぱある。で予算のない環境で作ることができる映画はどんな映画かというと、お金をかけずに作ろうとすると舞台はどうしても、リアリスティックな今あるものを使ってで物語はどんどんこう小さく身の回りの出来事をこう描いていくような。
The reason why I talk about the current state of production in this speech of screenwriting is because this is strongly related to screenwriting. In film production, budget is in proportion to creativity. To be honest, I don't want to admit that. I want to say that great creativity is all you need to make movies, and it should cover the low budget. But in reality, that is just bluffing. What happens if we try to create a movie without enough budget is that the stories become more and more simple, realistic, and less varieties.
で海外のお客さんからこう今の日本映画っていうのは要はちょっと静かな映画でね、こう人間の淡い関係を描いて人々の心の小さな機微をうまくかけてるよねなんて言っていい感想をね、そういうのが聞く時あるんですけど、それは確かに日本映画の特色なんですけど、それはね、なんでかっていうとね、もう予算がかけられないから、そういった部分でね、物語を作っていくしかないんですよね。で、それはもう今、ちょっと行き詰まってきてる。それが現状なんです。
I have heard many non-Japanese audience saying that Japanese movies are often very quiet and they tend to portray people's delicate relationship and tiny details of emotions very well. For sure, it is a feature of Japanese films, but on the other hand, it is also true that Japanese movies are forced to focus on these parts because of the limited budget. That is why nowadays, the idea to view film production as a show business began to be reconsidered.
でこの頃また日本でちょっと再度興行としての映画お客さんに見せるための映画がだんだんちょっとどう楽しませるのか、どういうふうに商業としてヒットさせていくのかっていう映画が割と見直される、作り方が見直されるようになってきて、脚本の分野でね。脚本の分野でもあんまり振り返られなかった当時の伝統としての技術を持った脚本の技術がだんだん見直されつつあるんですね。その伝統のドラマ剣がですね。でそれは今度予算がない分、今度その技術でカバーしようとしていって、でもっと言えば今度はその伝統とそれまであったちょっとアーティーな部分、芸術の部分がちょっと合わさった、今更もう区別する意味もなくなってきただろうと。で今度はどんどん一緒にして新しい映画作りをしなきゃいけないっていうふうな感じにはなってきてるんですね。
They are trying to cover up the limited budget with the skill of the traditional screenwriting. And Japanese film industry started to realize the importance of screenwriting after a long detour. And then nowadays, they're gonna mix the artwork, film as an artwork, and then film as show business together to create a new dramaturgy.
でこの状況から抜け出すために日本映画業界も世界と向き合わなきゃいけない。で日本の映画業界人ってどっちかっていうと内向的なんでね、なかなか課題が多いんですけど、これからはちょっと例えば隣国お隣の中国とかね、韓国とかそういって差し当たってアジアの人たちとまた大きな予算のあるような映画をねどんどん作っていかなきゃいけないし、これから挑戦していかなきゃいけない、これは我々の使命かなというふうに思っています。
I believe that it is the time for Japanese film industry to face the world. It is kind of hard for Japanese producers to do so because a lot of them are not outgoing. But in order to have more budget, we should start to cooperate with other countries' movie industry, like.
そんなわけで今日僕はちょっとそういうこともあって俺は今日ここに来ました。で、ここから今日明日またいろいろありますけども、いろんな交流をして、今度皆さんと一緒にね前に進んでいけたらなと思ってます。今日はありがとうございます。
Well, that's all I want to say today. And today and tomorrow, like I'll be still here. So it would be great if I can talk to you guys all. And then thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and make this as entertaining as possible, considering it's about legal agreements, which I know everybody loves. How does this work? Just press the big green play button. Okay, cool. All right, so on a basic level, the first thing we're going to talk about is what exactly is a co-production. A co-production is really just a collaboration between two or more producers to agree to jointly produce a work, right? And producers will do this because it benefits them. And the reason it benefits them is they get a few different things. One of the things they'll get is potentially complementary expertise. You may have one producer that's been through it a lot, so they understand the technical aspects of it, and the other producer may be a new producer but has access to really great material, right? So there's a complementary set right there. The other thing is reduction of risk. You've got two people in, you've got to raise half the money. And then you may also have access to multiple tax credits or funding incentives, which is the kind of thing that we'll get into when we start looking at international co-productions. So the types of co-productions. In Canada, we have domestic co-productions. You know, sometimes what we'll have is we may have a co-production between two production companies from different provinces, because each province has different tax credits. Some have regional tax benefits where you'll get a higher credit if you shoot remotely, where if you don't shoot in a metropolitan center, but if you shoot out in, say, Northern Ontario, you'll get a better deal than if you were to shoot in Toronto. You know, you get those. You also get international co-ventures, which is often used in situations where no formal treaties exist. Canada has a bunch of treaties with many different countries, but there are a lot of countries where there still are no treaties, including, you know, primarily the U.S., which still accounts for the bulk of, you know, the film production market up here. And those are known as international co-ventures. And then finally, the focus of today's oops, I did not press the play button. That's key. There you go. The focus of today's presentation are international treaty co-productions. So, on the international treaty co-production side, Canada has audiovisual co-production treaties in place with about 55 countries across 6 continents. Last year, we did about $500 million in official treaty co-productions. The co-production treaties are administered by Telefilm on behalf of the Government of Canada and the Ministry of Heritage. And typically, co-productions are done with two parties from 2 countries, though you can do multiple country co-productions as long as all treaties are complied with. I mean, typically, I don't think I've ever seen one that's been more than 3 countries, and I guess theoretically it's possible. So, what are the advantages of actually doing a co-production, a treaty co-production? So, one of the big advantages is that if you do a treaty co-production, the project is treated as a national production for each co-production country. So what that means is you can be eligible for government incentives, whether that's equity funding like Telefilm provides, provincial, federal tax credits here in Canada. And in Canada, what you also can get is Canadian certification for broadcast purposes, right? Here in Canada, there's a broadcast quota, and if a co-production, it would qualify for that quota, so you would benefit from preferential broadcasting. And if the treaty country that you're also doing the co-production with has a similar system, you get that benefit on both sides of the fence. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the requirements for actually doing a treaty co-production. One of the requirements is that co-producers must be responsible for all creative and financial elements of the project. So you can't have a third party in there that has a say in those things, otherwise it wouldn't be a 3D co-production. Each of the 3D co-producers must contribute a minimum financial percentage to the project, right? And usually that minimum is between 15 to 30%, which is based on the treaty. I should say that each of these things, you know, we've got treaties, Canada's, excuse me, we've got treaties with 55 countries. They're not, each treaty is not exactly the same. So there's going to be variance depending if it's a Canada-China treaty versus Canada-Ireland. Some of the requirements of the percentages are going to be slightly different, but the general framework tends to be about the same. The other point is that the IP rights in the project must be shared proportionally to financial contributions. So if one producer is putting in 70, the other producer is putting in 30, it should be such that typically the share of back-end revenue and those things and the ownership of the IP is also split on that same basis, on a 70-30 basis. Other things that are required in an international co-pro treaty. On the Canadian side, the Canadian production company must be Canadian owned and controlled, and that's a fun legal definition that exists within the Investment Canada Act, which basically means that the shareholding of the Canadian company needs to be 51% or majority controlled by Canadian residents. So even if you're a Canadian citizen, no longer resident in Canada, you wouldn't qualify. The underlying film IP has to originate from the co-production countries or have been substantially developed by the co-producers. So, you know, going back again, if there was a Canada-China co-production, we couldn't take an American script. We could potentially option an American novel, and as long as we substantially develop it between the producers, that would qualify. But taking source material from a country that's outside of the two treaty countries and just using that material would invalidate the treaty co-production. And the other requirement, this is a big one, is that the production and creative personnel must be residents and nationals of the co-production countries. There's a couple exceptions for key positions, and we'll take a look at that next. So, this didn't work out too well on that slide. I'm not going to go through all these in detail, but just suffice to say that in each, there's 3 different areas of film type that they look at, which is fiction, animation, and documentary. And then depending on which type you fall into, there's a list of key positions for each of those, right? And you can at least see the ones for fiction up here. And the requirement is that, or the exception I should say, is that one of the key positions can be filled by a national from outside the co-producing nations, right? So you'll often see, you know, you may have a Canada-Ireland co-production, but there'll be one American actor that'll be the lead, or perhaps, you know, there's an American director or an American script or something like that, because that allows the film to be a little bit more marketable. And so typically here on the Canadian treaty side, we make the exception. We say you can have one of the key positions filled from outside the countries. And in the case of a high budget production where both of the countries approve, you can get 2. So 2's not automatic. Even if it's a high budget, you still have to go to Telefilm and get approval, but it's an option. Okay, talking about the application process, the way it works is in order to be certified, you have to receive both a preliminary recommendation and final recommendation from Telefilm. The preliminary recommendation is something that you need to file with Telefilm. This is important. It's 30 days before principal photography starts. So if you want co-production treaty status, you need to apply before you start shooting. And then that 30 days, that's the Canadian side. Depending on who you do the treaty with, you know, some countries, like I think the UK's is 60 days or something. So you have to, you know, the tricky thing about co-productions is you have to make sure that you qualify on both sides of the fence, that whatever you're doing, whatever the requirements are, you follow the Canadian side, and then you also follow the co-production country side. And then the other thing you also have to do is apply to CAVCO for what's known as a Part A certificate. And that certificate is what allows you to be a Canadian production. That's a certificate that says, yes, you're Canadian production. That's what makes you eligible for the higher level of tax credits, and also for the broadcast quota. So now let's take a quick look at what are some of the elements of a co-production agreement. And some of these elements are treaty-based in the sense that, these are things that you need to qualify with the treaty, and then others are things that you'd want in there no matter what, whether you were doing a treaty co-production, whether you were doing a domestic co-production, whether you were doing a US co-production joint venture. These are just contractual terms and contractual elements that you want to address whenever you're doing any kind of co-production agreement. So, on a really basic level, you want to set out obviously the date of the agreement, the identity of the parties. The date is important because you've got that 30-day, 60-day window we were talking about. You want to talk about what the scope of the agreement is, right? Is it strictly for one production? If you're making this production, does the co-production, is it going to cover any sequels, any prequels? If it's a film and there ends up being a TV series of it, are you putting all those rights into this co-production, or is it strictly a one-off for this one particular production that you're doing? And then exclusivity, which means that typically the co-producers make an agreement that during principal photography and the pre-production development process, they're going to work primarily just on this film exclusively during principal photography, and then non-exclusively during other times. The other thing you want to put in there as well is a term of the agreement, right? Sometimes you get together for a co-production, but you may not have all the financing, you may not have all the elements in place. So at some point, if the movie doesn't get made, does the term end? At that point, how do the rights go back, right? If I'm the co-producer that's bringing the IP, if my co-production partner who's supposed to bring in, a portion of the financing isn't able to do so, I want to make sure that at the point when the term of the agreement ends, that the rights in the IP that I brought in, that I get back. So whether that's if if I'm bringing in an option for a book, or if there's a screenplay that I'm bringing into it, I want to make sure that I'm able to get those rights back at the end. The other thing you want to look at is what's the best way to organize the business? And for a treaty co-production, it typically ends up just being two separate companies going together, but when you're dealing with a domestic co-production, often you may form a single purpose entity specifically for that purpose. Responsibilities and decision making, Telefilm, what they require is that the decision making over the Canadian share of the project needs to be handled by Canadians. So that's a specific treaty requirement. But even absent the treaty, you want to be able to set out, hey, who's responsible for things like the budget, the production schedule, who gets approval for those things, who gets to make decisions on distribution. One of the things we talk about is division of proceeds. Like I mentioned earlier, the requirement here in Canada for treaty production is that Telefilm would require those proceeds to be distributed proportionally to the investment. Other things you want to put in there are set out who the accountants are, set out the responsibility for the business and legal affairs, insurance requirements for the production, who the completion guarantors are going to be, and finally have mechanisms in place in case if your co-production partner defaults on anything, how do you resolve those disputes, right? And then the final thing that was loud. Wanted to touch on was just new developments in co-production. So one of the interesting things that's happened recently with Canada co-productions is the eligibility of projects in digital media, in augmented reality, and virtual reality. So it's no longer just limited to straight film and television productions. At this point, if anyone's got any questions about co-productions, legal agreements related to co-productions, feel free. Yeah.
International. So would having an international co-production disqualify you from certain film grants? Are there ones that you can get with an international co-production?
Typically, that's the advantage of doing a treaty co-production. Right? Because if you do a treaty co-production, which means you follow the rules of the particular treaty, you're getting that benefit on both ends of the treaty. So if I was to do a Canada-China co-production, in Canada that would be treated as a Canadian film. So I wouldn't disqualify myself from any of the Canadian benefits, and vice versa on the other end of the treaty. So that's why so much of the production work that's outside of a Canada-U.S. Productions, because there is no Canada-U.S. treaty, but outside of those productions, if you're doing a co-production with a country where there is a treaty, you really would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't make sure you fell into the treaty.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Okay. I'll make a little, tricky. This morning when I woke up and then I was told that I was going to do a presentation, and that was obvious miscommunication. I thought that between my office with the organizer, I thought I was going to join a panel discussion, but in a hurry last night I put together the slides as a little, not to speak using slides is bad, as some of the previous speakers say, and it's what's all this is in Chinese. I just roughly, put together more like something flow of thoughts that I can refer, for myself when I do the presentation. I don't have to use my closed hands, I think. And this is the one? Oh, the green one. Okay. Now I'm going to quickly go through 4 different areas of updates. It's not vision. I don't think I'm sharing any vision. It's mostly the update of the China market. And as the MC introduced, I'm the chief representative for Motion Picture Association in China, and actually also with responsibilities for other parts of the Asia Pacific. China is the most important, foreign market for Hollywood studios, and that's why we spend most of the time, for myself, spend most of the time in China dealing with all the market access and content protection issues. I'm not going to go through the numbers, and as the previous speaker from Alibaba mentioned, that China's box office has been growing very dramatically over the past 10 years until 2016. There was some kind of a slowdown because of the scandals, the subsidiaries of the box office by e-ticketing companies, and the mere fact of some bad movies made in the year 2015 and 16. But regardless, and the market over the past 10 years, except 2016, has been growing for, on average, compound annual growth rate of 30%. And this year will be somewhere in between 15 to 20%, which is quite remarkable and for a market of that size. China now is the second largest box office market in the world, and the box office last year was 6.7 billion US dollars this year, and expected to reach around 8 billion US dollars. That slide is the theater growth. So theater growth, regardless to the slowdown in year 2006, actually continued to grow for about 30% annual growth rate. So the construction is continue to go on. So there's a big potential and need for good contents. And this is the box office for Motion Picture Association's member companies, the major Hollywood studios performance in China. So we know that in China there are government restrictions for foreign imports. Every year about 34 movies can be imported into China for revenue share, and on top of that, there will be another about the same number of movies that can be imported into China for under this flat sale deals, mostly independent films. And quickly, and I spoke about the revenue share for movies for the Chinese market. The first one was in 1994, The Fugitive, that was introduced under the agreement that signed between Motion Picture Association with the U.S. government and Chinese government. And until 2000, and that was the quota for 10 movies that can be imported into China for revenue share. And when China signed a treaty, WTO, and the number was increased to 20. And until 2012, the number was increased to 34 during the then Vice President Xi Jinping's visit to U.S. So some big titles like Titanic in '98 and was a kind of a phenomenon in China, and that movie alone represented for about 1/3 of the box office in China, with about $50 million box office. And Avatar actually was a very good example of for the Hollywood studios when they look at China as a market first, and with that potential, and the major studios really look at China as a more strategic market, and then they come along with a lot of interesting, innovative, in a way, marketing practices that, as people, some people criticize, and big production Hollywood movies put a lot of Chinese faces just for the sake of promoting the movies in China. But for good or bad, I mean, in terms of for movie-going experience, but those tricks actually make work, and then you can see that box office in China, and China now for all those major productions, and very frequently ranks as the #1 international market for Hollywood major productions, and even in this year, and for example, some of the major movies are the Transformers, Fast and Furious, and China is the #1 market, including North American market, as the major box office generator for Hollywood productions. And now, with the market become more strategic and more important for Hollywood studios, you see a lot of interest of Chinese companies now engaging with the major studios in financing, co-production, and many other corporations. So I'm not going to go through all those details of the corporations. Like almost all major studios, the Big Six, have signed one kind of certain kind of cooperation agreements with Chinese companies or financiers or some investors to all the Chinese studios to produce or co-produce for movies for the Chinese market. And also more interesting, a lot of the Chinese companies invested in Hollywood to produce movies, not just for the sake of exporting the movies to China, but for the international audience. So there are a lot of different layers of cooperation between China and Hollywood in terms of cooperation, including co-production. And speaking of treaties, and as the previous speaker mentioned, co-production treaties is something that China's government very keen to look at it as an aspect to promote and cooperation between film co-production between China and in other countries. And I just found out that Canada was the first country to sign a treaty with China. So it's a lot of interest. And speaking of co-production between these two countries, and I personally help in a way to for the movie, and in Chinese it's called Beijing Meets Seattle, but in English is Finding Mr. Right. Actually, that movie, Seattle, actually was here in Vancouver. And the reason for that was because when I was talking to the director and the producer, Bill Kong, and there are a lot of incentives in Vancouver, and also the people, the crews that they can easily find to work together with, and so that's the kind of a lot of other benefits compared with working in US. So this is a great platform here and a festival that enables people to come together. I think that would be a lot of interest to look at the co-production if you look at China's potential, Chinese companies as potential partners. And if you look at the numbers of co-productions, but I'm not going to go through all the details. And actually, in China, co-production are very strict definitions by the government and what the movie can be qualified as a co-production films. And there's a whole set of rules about censorship, obviously, that you have to go through here, go through in China. But there are some very basics, like the requirement for finance, that at least 1/3 of the money should come from China, and then they have a requirement for crew, like the lead actors or actresses should be Chinese, and then more and more importantly, the Chinese government look at that movie, whether story has some relevance, whether the movie will be shot in China, so the quote-unquote Chinese elements that included in the movie to be qualified as a co-production. So the number, as you can see the number here, there are not many quote-unquote co-production movies between China and the United States. The reason was because I represent the major studios, and for them, as some other speakers have mentioned, it's a business. So they need to look at the market, whether there's financially viable to look at China as a market to recruit that investment. And so for many years, the co-production between United States and China, the numbers were very low until year 2015 and 16 started to pick up. The reason was because China market, for the size of the box office, to look at China not just a co-production movie, but internally it's more like a local production for Hollywood studios. So as long as your movies can be qualified as a co-production film, we don't look at China market outside China to sell the movie, and the market itself is big enough to justify for the return on investment for co-production films in China. And just quickly mention about these big numbers. Those co-production films actually are mostly Hong Kong, mainland China co-production films. So they're not foreign, because Hong Kong is a separate administrative region outside China. So the co-production between Hong Kong and mainland China also put under this category. So more than 50% of the quote-unquote co-production films are Hong Kong mainland productions. And there's some good examples of Hollywood studios co-production with China, but some flops. And as you can see that very successful one is like Hot Summer Days, produced by Fox International in China. That was about 7 years ago, with a budget of close to 20 million RMB, and with a box office as 120 million. That was considered as a very successful one. And there's some flops, as you can see. And Great War, people talk a lot about the Great War, but for good or bad, it was a good experience. I think that you will see some of the studios will sit back and then take a deeper look of this co-production experience, and we do see there will be some major co-production films coming from China, and also with the hope to sell internationally. But currently, as I say, that local production is more, business-wise, a more practical method or market to look at China just as a box office market. And there are a lot of things. I'm not going to go through all the details about how people can actually come together to work together for co-production films. Because of the development area, the legal issues, and also the quote-unquote dominance of the Hollywood studios in terms of driving the IP and getting all the benefits, and many other things, the marketing, distribution. And the market in China is very different. I mean, a lot of innovations by the Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent, all those big internet companies that with the entering of the film entertainment business. But in Hollywood, there's still a very quote-unquote traditional way of measuring the cost of for everything. So that big gaps between the two sides to, sort of to narrow it and to work together. And so there's some very big concerns from the Chinese side when they look at the co-productions. And first, they want to, get their voice heard in the whole process, and for the early beginning of the development of projects to the very end of earning a piece of the box office, and by looking at the accounting practices of, that will be more localized to the Chinese, and also the rights to earn and share the IP rights of the co-production titles. And I mentioned a little bit about all those, different layers of co-production or cooperation between China and the United States, and with Chinese companies, capital investing in US, and also setting up joint ventures in China, and Chinese capital to set Chinese studios to raise fund to set up new ventures in Hollywood, like Studio 8 and STX, or those companies actually. Although they are not producing co-production movies for China, but as I say, that a lot of the capital stuff coming from China and help set up those companies, especially for the finance of those companies, that they'll make it very interesting to see how in the coming years the cooperation between those parties can really produce. But for co-production film, if you want to make it work in China, you got to be people working in China on the ground and organically and develop the projects together. So it doesn't work that you have a project and you want to hand it over to the Chinese partner and say, I want to do it, this is a great script, I want to do it in China. So I've seen too many of those kind of approaches and never seen them succeed. And so we do a lot of cooperations between the Hollywood studios with the Chinese partners, and we run programs, and actually since 5 years ago, the major studios and work with the Chinese government to bring the filmmakers to China, to US, to have this intensive training or exchange program, and including top Chinese filmmakers, and they actually collectively represent more than, I would say, 80 to 90% of the box office in China. So those are the really good programs. Every single studio have the programs with Paramount, young filmmakers, and Disney feature on the animation, and Fox with the special focus of the high concept movies, and Sony with script writing, and Warner Brothers and talent management, and Universal just finished about a couple weeks ago that producer program. And also we run events in China for the film festivals, and also we run every year an annual awards in Hollywood, the Golden Screen Awards, that represents some of the brought together some of the best co-production films between China and other countries, and to give awards. And there's many opportunities. I'm not going to go through this, and the BATs, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, and all in the business now. They're very, very involved in many aspects of all sets of the areas of film business, from marketing, e-ticketing, and many content production now. And like we see here in US and North America market, and Netflix and Amazon, they are really spending for the original content creation. So that's actually the trend here in China as well. And if you look at the numbers of those, films and TV dramas or net dramas that are produced by those companies, they're pretty phenomenal, and that actually represents a lot of opportunities for filmmakers to go to China. Not necessarily to look at the theatrical market as the only area that can be a potential cooperation, but for those online video streaming sites. So that's my very quick updates of the China market, and then if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to address. Thank you.
Thanks, William. So if you have any questions for William or any of the other presenters, we have one more short event, and then it'll be lunch, and they'd be happy to talk over lunch with any of your questions or just a conversation. So please join me in one more round of applause for this morning's presenter. Kind of awkward to clap with the mic. So before we break, we have a special moment that we all get the pleasure of witnessing. So the table is coming up. So as you probably know, it's the Golden Panda's mission to connect different cultures and create an environment where we can come together and collaborate on film and create more relationships within the film industry. So because of last year's efforts, there was many opportunities that were discovered, including 2 new partnerships, which the agreements for will be signed right now. So the first one is for a new feature film called Vancouver Love Story that will be co-produced between Orient Star Media and Kujili Media Company of China, Guangxi Satellite TV. And the second one is a strategic partnership agreement between the Golden Panda International Film Festival Committee and Alibaba Pictures Group. And in the partnership agreement, it includes brand promotion, discovery and support for emerging filmmakers, and film distribution and promotion. Fantastic.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we're gathered today on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish peoples. It's an honor to be here as your Minister of Tourism, of Arts and Culture, and I'd like to congratulate the Vancouver Golden Panda International Film Festival Committee for organizing this International Industry Forum. Your passion to deliver a great festival and support emerging filmmakers and foster collaboration in a global film industry is wonderful. I'd like to congratulate you on having your 5th year. This is excellent, and I hear you're growing. We look forward to having you for the next 5 years as well. And it's so fantastic to see so many young filmmakers in the room. It's really nice to see. I'd like to congratulate everyone involved in the co-production agreement between Orient Star Media and China Guangxi TV Media Group for the film project A Vancouver Love Story. You may have noticed that British Columbians working in the creative industry are very passionate about their work, and they can be trusted to deliver excellent products and exceptional productions that entertain people the world over. And it's because of their hard work, the industry in BC is booming. This sector contributed more than $2.6 billion to the economy last year, and it's growing. This is a huge achievement. And our province is one of the top centers for screen production excellence in North America, with a long history of producing award-winning feature films, television series, documentaries, and commercials. And one of our key strengths is that BC is known around the world as being a film-friendly, full-service production center. And we are looking forward to growing this product with our new partnerships with Chinese filmmakers like you. BC's production-friendly reputation extends from our cities, our local residents, our businesses, our municipal film offices and agencies that welcome and provide support to productions like yours. Recently, I was in LA on a trade mission where I met with a number of film industry leaders, and a common theme among the conversation was that BC is a great place to do business. So I'm looking forward to having you do business with us as well. The government of British Columbia is committed to strengthening a sustainable and competitive creative economy, one that's going to thrive well into the future. And for those of you who are visiting us from abroad, we welcome you here, and we're excited to have you come do business with us. Personally, I look forward to seeing the results of your collaboration in this weekend's work, and I know my colleagues, Minister Chow and Minister Ralston, are really excited to participate in the red carpet event with you tomorrow. Once again, thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts with you, and on behalf of the province and Premier John Horgan and the entire government of British Columbia, I'd like to welcome you and enjoy the rest of your weekend in the Golden Panda International Film Festival. Thank you.
谢谢。女士们、先生们，大家下午好。非常荣幸能够受电影节组委会的邀请，来到温哥华，和电影界的同仁们一起探讨，电影界的大事。不用，还是没问题，谢谢。因为，大概在3个月前吧，也是一次在现场的探班当中，可能崴了一下脚，就把原来的这个，骨裂的老伤啊，弄复发了。所以这3个月轮椅坐下来之后呢，人是胖了，到现在呢还是走路不太方便。中国人有些老话，伤筋动骨100天，所以老祖宗的话是一点不错的。其实我还现差10天。前几天我碰到一位导演叫冯小宁，他跟我说他受过一次大伤。在102天的时候，他随便怎么蹦跶都不疼了，但是他在98天的时候，他觉得还疼，也许是心理作用，但也许是老人说的话都是对的。那么中国还有一句话，叫做不听老人言，吃苦在眼前。30多年前、40多年前，当我还是个少年或者是个年轻导演的时候，我也是不听老人言的，所以我也走了很多弯路。今天呢，也许我已经是56岁的人了，所以我在这儿，我觉得我也是个老人了。所以我想今天在座的这些年轻导演或者年轻制作人得说2句，你们得听听老人言。我去年跟冯伟先生，冯伟先生是美国制片人协会的亚太区的执行副总裁兼中国区的总裁，我们在美国好莱坞6大公司拜访的时候，好几位这个公司的老总，当然都是一把手，还不是普通的高管。听说我来了，要跟我见个面。这见面呢，并非因为我是个什么名人，关键是因为我坐的这个位置比较好。中国电影股份有限公司老总，他们也知道，这中影啊，把握着全世界影片进入到中国的生杀大权。但是有一点，本来他们跟我礼节性的聊天，聊10分钟、20分钟、半个小时的，最后他能够请我吃午饭，或者能够请我喝下午茶，或者能真正的让我能坐下来跟他们聊3个小时。为什么？有一位老板一语道破天机，他说：“你们有很多的中国导演或者是中国制片人，经常来给我讲那些枯燥无味的故事，但是你今天讲的故事，我爱听的。首先，你不像所谓的官员，你给我讲一套我不爱听的道理，接着呢，你摆个官腔就走了，你还像个导演。我说这因为我是导演。第二，我说可能你们传统意义当中的中国官员是那样吗？不是，其实我们是与时俱进的，我们生活在习近平时代。我们有这么一个非常好、非常伟大的领袖，这么一个领袖，他会告诉我们怎么样子从人民中来到人民中去。什么叫从人民中来到人民中去？我们本身是一个普通的人民当中的一员，一个当导演，一个当制片，一个当编剧出身的人。一旦当国家给了你某一个位置的时候，你为什么把自己看得太高呢？你应该俯下身子去再帮老百姓做事情呢，这时候不是更受欢迎吗？ 所以我在想，今天交给我一个很大的课题，就是说中国电影产业在国际上的影响和合作契机。其实这个课题，如果要讲2天都能讲，如果按照教学的课程讲，可以讲很多天。其实我就是想告诉大家，中国现在是一个电影大国，我们中国的银幕数量全球第1，应该说中国的电影也受到全世界的瞩目。准确的说，是中国这个电影市场受到了全世界的瞩目，因为中国电影市场起来了，全世界的电影也许可以在中国获得它的一份利，或者是实现它的一份价值。但是，就像我们广电总局童刚副部长和张宏森副部长说的那样，中国虽然是一个电影生产大国，但并非是一个电影质量大国。从量的大国要达到质的大国，我们还要有一个漫长的时间。这就是要提高整个中国电影的制作的水平。这就是要达到中国的国家主席习近平所说的那样，我们的电影要思想精深，艺术精湛，制作精良。何为思想精深？在座的可能年轻的导演认为，是不是你们的审查标准很高，那就叫做思想精深？不是的，思想精深就是一切展现人世间真善美的东西，就是思想精深。什么叫做艺术精湛？艺术精湛是我们不把眼睛只看在钱上面，只看在票房上，还想做2部像像样样的是电影的，而不是肥皂剧的电影。什么叫做制作精良？制作精良不是说我们所有的都用滤背景，完了之后用电脑抠出来，那叫制作精良。有本事的，你拿最少的钱，拿一台独眼龙的机器，能够把人世间最美好、最底层、最本质的东西，通过你的摄影机的高超的技巧、技艺展现出来，那叫做制作精良。我们提倡3精，就是如此。提倡3精的同时，我们反对3俗，也就是媚俗、低俗、庸俗。如果我们的电影充满了这3俗，我们就不是电影人。其实，中国电影产业在国际上的影响和合作的契机，首先说国际上的影响。中国的电影在国际上能产生影响的，绝大部分就是刚才我们所说的，是真正的能够代表中国的人文、代表中国的历史、代表中国电影人水平的电影。相反，这些年来，在国际电影节的影展当中，在国际 A 类电影节的影展当中，我们并没有更多的作品能够取得特别好的成绩。为什么？是因为部分电影人可能有些急功近利，可能把眼睛盯在了票房上，可能把眼睛只盯在腰包是否鼓起来。张宏森部长说，电影是供人欣赏的，电影不是来玩钱的。我们想，1895年12月28日，法国那对倒霉的兄弟叫做卢米埃尔，他们把自己所有的积蓄拿出来，折腾了这么一个叫电影的玩意儿，最后想找个放映的地方都没有。 如果不是他们还有个哥们儿是开咖啡厅的，那全世界就不会有电影了。但是这开咖啡厅的哥们儿也说，你在我这放你这什么东西，要没有人看，我生意都没有了。我地下室有个仓库腾空了，你就摆几张椅子，有人看就看，没人看拉倒吧。当一张白布支起来的时候，下边坐的有王公贵族，也有喝咖啡的客人，也有打工的门口过路的人，这些人都是被老板招揽来给卢米埃尔兄弟来捧个场的，也就是30-50人。当场灯黑下来的时候，当一列火车没有声音的从远处奔过来的时候，大家情不自禁地尖叫起来，要离开位置，怕压倒他。当大家看到那个浇水的园丁不小心踩了皮管子，水浇在大家头上的时候，情不自禁地把伞举起来了，挡住了荧幕。当这一切都没有发生，发现火车并没向自己压来，水并没有浇到自己的时候，他们才忽然发现，这神奇的白布上出现了神奇的事情，那就是1秒钟24格的胶片形成的一个新的艺术，叫做电影。全世界的艺术诞生的日期都没有准确的日子，唯有电影。这是我们值得骄傲的事情。谁能说出音乐、舞蹈、诗歌、杂技是哪天诞生的？但是我们能准确说出，电影是1895年12月28日下午3点。每一个做电影的人应该为自己的神圣使命而感到骄傲。我们不是说在这里讲了一个枯燥无味的故事，圈了2个钱，然后弄了2个国际电影节，招摇过市一下子，完了在红毯上亮了个相，就变成自己是电影人了。电影人是什么？电影人要有高尚的情怀，他觉得是在做别人可能不想做，没钱的人做不了，但是他没钱，要努力想去把它做好的事情，是要高尚的人。电影人是什么？电影人是肯吃苦的人，是可以历尽千辛万苦，经过千锤百炼，踏破千山万水，最后也许一事无成的人。有很多电影人在他的晚年是穷途潦倒的，但是他可以骄傲地说，我在年轻的时候曾经有过一部优秀的作品。我们现在说中国黑白电影的时候，可能会忽略一部电影，叫做《小城之春》。拍出来的时候也没有多少观众，多少年之后，导演费穆也因为这部电影没有观众，老板不想再用它，他抑郁，很快他离开了这个世界。他没有想到，当他离开这个世界若干年之后，在欧洲一次偶然的影展当中，所有的人发现，不光是小城之春，乌鸦与麻雀，十字街头，马路天使，丽人行，希望在人间，万家灯火，比法国新浪潮早出了10多年，20年，比意大利新现实主义早了10多年。中国的电影人很早就注意到，他们面对着火热的生活当中有太多的东西可以挖掘。如果我们这一代的年轻人还能挖掘出当年那些大师和后来80年代张艺谋、陈凯歌他们那样子去潜心于生活，最后从人民中来到人民中去挖掘出来的东西，你就能真正的在国际上与其他的电影人接轨，而不是我们坐在家里空想，而不是我们坐在家里编造一个 我们在座的人都听不明白的故事，或者我们在这里凭空想象一个也许能够赚多少钱的故事。我一直说，在好莱坞，电影是工业，是要赚钱的。但是全世界除了好莱坞，还有许许多多把电影当成艺术的人。电影是用来研究的，电影是用来观赏的。如果电影真正的要去大把的赚钱，其实我们当中有不少人是不适合干这个的。你可以去股市，可以去华尔街，可以去其他更多的可以赚到钱的地方。电影是要有我们习主席所说的那种精神，也就是板凳坐的10年冷，要有这种精神，不要指望天上掉下馅儿饼，要有语不惊人死不休的那种意志。只有这样，撸起袖子加油干，才能够达到我们光辉的顶点。我想跟今天参与我们创投的一些年轻人说，真的要回到火热的生活当中去。我们坐在家里是写不出东西来的。我是一个很容易接纳新生事物，也很容易听进别人说故事的人。如果当我就想玩手机的时候，我回头看现场有多少人在玩手机的时候，你这个故事注定就失败了。我看剧本的经验是晚上11点或者是12点以后，这时候人困马乏，拿过一个剧本，3分钟之后你困了，这个剧本就回家。如果你在极其困的情况下，你把这剧本一气呵成看到2点钟，这个剧本就可拍。为什么？当人累得要死的时候，还能看到一个剧本能让你把睡意全无，这一定是好电影。你看一个电影味同嚼蜡，那它就不能代表成功。就跟我们在读书的时候，老师说，进电影院前3分钟不能把你吸引住，那这电影就很难让人再看下去。那么电影是要我们去深入生活的，是要我们去深入实际的，是要我们去深入底层的。只有这样才能做出深入人心的作品。我今天这发言是挺麻烦的，弄死翻译。这个但是我觉得咱们既然是研讨，是创投，应该是跟大家有一些交流的。这个陈蒙组委会看得起我，让我担任这次评审团的主席。但是我觉得，我们要跟我们亲爱的同行在一起，坐在前排的这些可能都是后边一些年轻人的老师或者是长辈。当我们这些可能头发已经白了的人坐在一起交流的时候，你们不要以为我们听不懂你们的故事，我们是听得懂的。关键是你们怎么能让我们听得懂，让我们感兴趣。不要说我们的电影总是给年轻人看的，你要有能耐，电影能让7岁的到70岁的一起看，那才是你的功夫。所以我在想，合作的契机在哪里？合作的契机在于俄罗斯朋友也好，加拿大朋友也好，美国朋友也好，或者是菲律宾朋友也好，当讲了一个故事，他把他我自己国家一挪，你也可以跟我一起拍，你也可以跟他一起拍，这才叫合作。你讲了一个巴布靠的故事，谁跟你合作呢？什么叫合拍片？或者叫中国跟美国的合拍片，或者中国就跟加拿大的合拍片，中国跟俄罗斯的合拍片。就是在这个俄罗斯的电影里边加一个中国小女孩拿个枪露个脸，那就叫合拍片了？那不是。这种打酱油的事儿我们看的很多，中国都有大明星去打酱油，出来之后也不是合拍片。如果 我们要真正是一个合拍片，不一定是花大价钱做的，不一定是花大场面拍的，但是你是真正能够表现这个合作的两个国家之间人与人之间的互相的冲击、互相的沟通、互相的交融的东西，那可能才叫真正的合拍片。我太太写过一个剧本，就写的在中俄的边境，这个40多年前，我们两国当时关系不好，所以这个边境线上建铁丝网，这边有铁丝网，那边铁丝网，当中呢大概隔着有3米，这个3米的这个当中呢就是长草的，那么两边都站岗的，那么这个站岗的呢有一个苏军的战士，那中国呢从来是飒爽英姿无尺枪，我们男女都一样，所以有一位站岗的女兵。这一个站岗的女兵和一个站岗的男兵，他们之间在大热天会有什么事儿，在大冬天会有什么事儿？零下30度的时候，苏军那时候他们的武器设备和后备力量非常好，能够给一个哨所里边都能安空调，有一个亭子。而我们的战士在漫天大雪里，一个女战士背着挎着枪，眼睛都不眨，背后有一杆5星红旗，她在这站岗的时候，两个人之间会有什么冲突？当有一天他们都把铁丝网蹬开来，往里靠一点，往里靠一点，最后把一块巧克力和一个握手的东西互相隔着铁丝网递过去的时候，他们之间会发生什么样的情感？国境线可能并不一定能拦住人心，人与人之间都是能沟通的。两个伟大的国家挨在一起，可能是因为各种原因会导致战争，但是作为普通一兵，他们之间有着最普通的情感，就是不打仗，人民过安居乐业的好日子。其实很简单，但这种题材也许是因为他们两个语言不通，所以你从头到尾可能不要你去听话，他们都是比划的。到电影院看也不要用翻译，你们都能看得懂的。可能这种题材就是合作的题材。刚才我们都听到很多的年轻朋友讲，我们年轻人总是困惑，总是忧郁，甚至是绝望，没办法就逃岗。这是有时候我们想想，90年代还逃岗吗？我们开玩笑说，其实93年的时候，上海绝不输给香港了。我去香港，我觉得比上海离了有一段距离了。可能说在60年代嘛，差不多。我们还是要深入生活，还是要了解生活，生活当中究竟是什么样子。电影不在于说在90分钟全都能打动人，关键是它一个个细节集在一起，能不能都能打动人。一场晚会要让人家有2到3个泪点，一部电影也一定要有3次高潮，2次起码落泪的地方。我有一个微电影的剧本已经注册了，也特别简单。3个漂亮的女孩子开着一辆车从家里出来，又是高架了，又是繁华的城市了，一个转弯，咵进了一个高档的小区。这小区那儿停车的地方写着白天停车多少钱，晚上6点以后非本小区车不能停。但是白天停车是10块钱1小时，晚上6点以后不是本小区的车就不能停了。3个女孩下来的时候，看见收车费的老爷爷正在那儿收停车费，跟别人收停车费，挎着个自行车。3个女孩一看，快走，讨停车费呗。老爷爷跟他们说：“你们等着。”还没说完呢，3个女孩咣进了楼公寓。那老爷爷骑着车追过来了，一过来，那女孩一进电梯，唰一抹，从第1楼到20楼全抹亮了。老头在外边一看，不知道去哪一层的，也追不了了，叹了一口气，看了一下手表，中午11点，光1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9、10转了12圈， 晚上11点多了，电梯门开了，3个女孩从里头下来了，一个男孩送她下来的，显然是到同学家玩去的，开心的不得了，下来了，外边已经下雪，哟，下雪了，一开门下雪，说赶紧吧，赶紧回家，幸亏今天没喝酒，都下雪了，哎，就要开车门的时候，忽然想谁搭了个雪人啊？车门前搭了雪人，再一看雪人动了，3个女孩都下了，再一看老头披着个塑料雨披，慢慢站起来了。大家说大爷你干嘛？3个小女孩马上明白了，大爷在那等着，他们逃了停车费。那小男孩说：“老头你至于吗？你没冻死啊？你等了多长时间了？”大爷说：“他们中午11点进去的。”一算，行了。小伙子拿出200块，老头说：“行了，你可以回家了。你真丢我人，丢我们小区的人。”老头半天哆嗦了，说不出话来，说：“他们走得太急，他们后窗没关，我看他们包包都在车上，我一直等着呢。”就这一刹那，3个女孩怎么想？老人家把钱丢给他们，拿了100块钱，说：“这是你们该交的车钱。”撕了10张10块钱的票给他们，然后几次想跨上自行车，蹲的时间长了，跨不动，最后推着自行车在漫天大雪当中，远远地向远处走去，就像鲁迅先生当年写的小说《一件小事》那样。那个车夫越走越远，但是在我们的心中，他越来越高大，仿佛要炸出我皮袍下的小来。这个小是什么？就是我们的小心眼，我们的私心。3分钟，你会被他感动。生活当中有无数的故事，我们可以去寻找，我们可以去挖掘。上次我听一个故事很有意思，一个放映员放一辈子电影，电影院这个80年代、90年代生意不好了，解散了，他就自己一个人把这老胶片通通买下来了。弄了部马车，到处放电影。他是在哪儿呢？在草原上放电影，在中蒙边境上放电影。现在电影情况好了，但是草原上不便建电影院，他依然是放老电影。完了之后，最简单的办法，他自己拿个话筒，用蒙文在里边说解释这个电影里的故事，让牧民们能观看。后来他发现一个事儿。当他把银幕支起来的时候，银幕背后也坐满了人，因为他这里离国境线只有10米，反面是外蒙古的这个观众在看电影，这边是中国的内蒙古的观众在看电影，同样是一个银幕，把2个国家的人、同一个民族的人心连在了一起，当中就有很多故事。其实生活当中这样的故事太多太多，我们为什么不能去展现特别让人感动的，能够让人心悦的，能够让人看到社会美好的东西？我们经常看到电影里头，小伙子开个车过马路，有一老太太过马路，这一个急刹车，小伙子会大叫一声：“你找死啊！”为什么不能把？以前我那时候审片的时候，我说不行。你一点人文关爱都没有，你这开车的又不是个流氓，他就是着急要去办事情去。一老太太背着个筐经过，他一下，你找死啊！我说好比你母亲从这儿经过，你能会这么骂吗？改词儿。那导演说这有什么好改的？我说其实我们的电影从细微事处，从细微中能不能改的有点人情，有点关爱？你。同样是急刹车，脸上的表情不变，我们重新配音。你当心啊！看，找死啊！当心啊！口型是一样的，3个字儿。其实这就是爱。如果我们电影人要多一点爱，生活当中我们能够把爱真正的融到电影当中去，而不是把钱融到电影当中去，我们就会有许许多多的能够合作的电影，因为爱在全世界都是相通的。当你们看到这个2战结束的时候，那个大兵在马路上吻着那女孩的那张经典照片的时候，你们有没有想过这就是爱呀？ 对吧？就当我们看到火车就要奔向前方，火车那么多的士兵要跟他们的恋人去告别，也许这一走血洒疆场，有个矮个儿的士兵够不着在上面的，有个矮个儿的女孩子够不着在上面的这个士兵，其他的女孩子拖着他，那个上面的一帮士兵抱着这个士兵，让他探下身子来，火车已经开始缓缓向前了，让他们俩能吻一下子。其实这就是爱呀。这样的东西在生活当中比比皆是，我们为什么不去发掘？我们老要去琢磨仇恨、龌龊、肮脏。其实，如果把电影表现得美好点、高尚点、阳光点，看的人会更多。因为我们生活在一个毕竟还是有爱的世界，大家希望的是爱和阳光。谢谢大家。
Thank you so much. So that brings us to the end of today's. I know, right? Well, one more thing. We have our awards, but actually, it's you I have to ask up here, Mr. Grove Svensson. Would you do us the honor of introducing our winners for Social Impact Award? Great. Just like the Oscars, you know, you got the envelope.
Oh. Best Social Impact. K.
And to introduce the Creative Spark Award, Stephen Nevin.
Creative Spark Award goes to Vines, the Colombian American ayahuasca program.
And to introduce the Market Star Award, which comes with $1,000 from the Golden Panda Film Festival, is the Giant Pig.
The Best Market Awards. Yeah. School has no aliens too.
是全金属，刚才那个全金属。
Congratulations. And thanks to everyone who attended, everyone who presented, to our filmmakers who came up and gave it their all. We are way over time, so I'm going to cut these remarks short and just say that I hope I see you tomorrow. If you haven't picked up your tickets for the ceremony tomorrow or the industry party, they are at the check-in booth with the programs on it there. And yeah, just thank you so much. And if we could get everybody up on stage to take a group photo, that would be great as we say goodbye. Just our, yeah, for just the front table here. If you spoke today in one of the presentations, if we could get you up on stage to take a group photo, that would be great. We get one more round of applause for all of our presenters today. The Golden Canada Film Festival, the Industry Forum. Thank you for coming.